Gina Carano, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's an honor to have you here. Man, we've been going back and forth for, I think, since last December.
Yeah.
So, been a long time coming, but I'm very happy you're here, and thank you for making the time to come on.
Thank you for being so patient. It feels like, I don't know, when January hit, it just felt like it's been nonstop since then. I don't know if it feels like that for anybody else, but I was on the shelf for a couple years, and then bam, January hit, and I feel like I'm gone every 2 weeks.
Yeah. So you've been busy.
Yeah, I've been busy, which is a great thing. I love being busy. But I've been watching you for a long time and just seeing how wonderful you're doing. And I don't even know you, but I like your demeanor. I like how you speak to people. I like the questions you ask, and it seems like a very comfortable, nice podcast you got here.
Thank you. That means a lot. I really appreciate that. And I'm just so happy that you're here.
Thank you.
So I'm going to start off with an introduction here. So Gina Carano, you're an American actress and former mixed martial artist. You were a trailblazer for women in MMA, being the first ever sanctioned female MMA bout. You had a fighting record of 7 wins, 1 loss, 0 ties. You starred major movies such as Haywire, Deadpool, Fast and the Furious 6, The Mandalorian, and The Terror on the Prairie. Unlawfully fired into fame by Disney for speaking out and holding your ground on the LGBTQ agenda, COVID, and election fraud. And with help from Elon Musk's lawyers, you are currently in a suit with Disney to get your story out. You become a prominent voice for free speech. You are a wife, a Christian, and now a Montana resident.
I'm almost a wife.
Oh,
yeah,
almost a wife.
Yeah,
well,
we should be having a ceremony.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, soon, hopefully.
When's that happening?
I don't know. It might happen next year. We're presently we had to kind of uproot our lives from living in LA and an unsafe environment, and we moved into an RV, and we traveled to Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee, to possibly live here. And in my head, I was thinking I was going to end up working for the Daily Wire, and we were going to do a movie together, and we were going to get this whole, other Hollywood started for conservatives, or for not just conservatives, but for anybody who just didn't want to kind of bend on the morals. And so I thought I was going to end up here. And then, and I want to make this clear. The Daily Wire gave me Ben Shapiro gave me a wonderful phone call as soon as I was canceled. And he had said, you need to punch back. You can't take this lying down. And they had this big, long list of joining their company at that time, a big contract. And that was a little too much for me. And I was like, why don't we just start with a movie? And so when I got into the RV and traveled across, I took my time, because letting go of where I'd lived for 15 plus years in LA, you kind of have to reintegrate yourself into your new life. Mm-hmm. And so sold the house, bought the RV, have no idea how to drive an RV, figured it out on the way. And it's like the legit one, it's all connected. You
get the big boy.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And so...
well, how long did it take you to learn how to drive the RV?
Well, this lady was driving us out of California, and we also had a U-Haul. So Kevin Ross, who's my guy, he was driving the U-Haul with all of our stuff. We gave most of our stuff away, and he was driving the U-Haul with most of our stuff. We were headed to Arizona just to drop off the U-Haul before we went to Nashville. Well, this lady, I was trying to learn from her. She drove us to the border, and I was trying to learn from her, and she just was like, honey, you're just gonna have to figure this out yourself, And I was like, she's a big smoker. She's like, it'll be fine. It's not that bad. And I was like, shit, can you tell me what this button does? Like, can you tell me what this does? And I just like was like trying to pick her brain, but she didn't want to have any conversation. She just wanted to do her job to get us to the border. And I was like, all right, well, we pulled over in a Walmart. She unhooked her car from our RV. And Kevin's looking at me and he's like, well, you want me to drive? And like, I've driven horse trailers and I've driven a lot of, we've moved ourselves so many times in life. I'm like, I'm not afraid of this thing. I just need to get in the seat.
I just need to know what this button does.
Yeah. And so that first day I drove 13 hours to get to Prescott, Arizona, and there was a monsoon happening, and the streets were a mess, and I was just like, yeah, this would happen to me.
Holy shit!
But it was great though. It was like the hardest learning curve of how do you drive an RV, and then we drove that RV across to come to Nashville, Tennessee, and it felt like the whole entire time a storm was following me. Like, I remember it was like around tornado season, whenever that is, but it just felt like there was a storm following us the entire time. And we came out to Nashville, and we got on this lake, and we parked, I always like to be right on or not lake, it was a river. We parked down on the river, and it looked like people had lived there like full time. And we parked down on this river and we stayed there for about 2 weeks. And then I was going into town in Nashville and speaking with the Daily Wire. And then an Uber driver would bring me back out. And then we were finally going to get into our Airbnb that we were supposed to be in for 6 months. Well, the day we moved out of that RV spot, it started to trickle down rain at 7 a.m. And I was like, wow, this is okay, this is awesome. Okay, so we're leaving now. It's going to rain. Cut to the Uber driver calling me later on that day, and he's like, hey, I don't want to be unprofessional here, but are you okay? And I was like, what are you talking about? Yeah, we just moved into our Airbnb. We're great. And he said, the place that you were at is underwater right now. And I was like, oh, okay. And that was that big flood that you guys had.
Wow.
And, when you saw those RV floating down the river, I was parked next to that RV.
Wow.
And some of those RVs that were floating, and like the path that we walked the days before was completely underwater. So it was a God thing as well. Some divine intervention happening. Yeah, because we wouldn't have had any idea. And we would have lost the only home at that point we had. Man. So we moved into the Airbnb and had the conversation with the Daily Wire, because at that time they were talking about SAG-AFTRA, the union for actors and everybody else. They were talking about mandating the vaccine. And what would have happened is, had we started shooting this, it was called White Knuckle, and it was about a trucker who was it was a cool, like it would have totally been a hit kind of movie, a serial killer, and we would have needed that to be union because of the stunts that, were involved. And they said, the Daily Wire said, look, we hate that this is our first meeting with you. You just drove across country here, but we would need you to sign a contract that said that if SAG came to our set and demanded that everybody on that set was vaccinated, that you would comply with getting vaccinated. And I was like, just absolutely, and they know it, brokenhearted, just completely thrashed internally, just, this is everything I was standing against. And then I moved my entire life in my RV over thinking, now I'm going to find my people, and I'm going to, and this is the first meeting. Wow. And so, and they're not bad people. They had to present me with the facts. Mm-hmm. And the facts is, we can do a $4 million movie, have it be a SAG union, hit, basically, because it was a great script. And Jeremy Boring is like, he's a genius. So he had been working on the script, and it was turning into something really special. And I just went home to the RV place because we're still there. And I was like, this, just in tears, just like, I moved away from this. I thought we were starting something different, and very heartbroken. And then I went in for the second meeting, and I told him, I'm just not willing to do that, because who then would we hire? And they didn't want to do it either. They just had to present the facts to me. And I was like, who then would we hire? And they said, well, we'd hired only vaccinated people besides you. And I said, I feel like this is everything I'm standing against. So I guess no is the answer. And is there another option? And Dallas Sonier, he was like, yes, well, there is another option. And he said, how about we just go up and make this Western that we all like? Because Dallas is really great at making Westerns. Even though he didn't want to do another Western, he was like, well, and they automatically pivoted. And they're like, okay, we'll pivot. We'll go up to Montana. We'll make this Western. It's not the movie we were planning on making, but we'll make it. We're going to only be able to make it for, $2 million, which with, I don't know, horses and babies and Montana's big landscape and having to deal with all of that is pretty low budget. But we went up there and we shot Terror on the Prairie while everything was closed down, or they were mandating all of the stuff. We didn't mandate masks. They started to try to do COVID tests, and I was like, no, I'm not doing this. Nobody has to wear a mask. Nobody has to do COVID tests. I'm not complying with any of this. You're not sticking this up everybody's nose. If they don't want to do it, they don't have to. And we're going to have a free set.
Nice.
And, we had a free set, and it was a bunch of us delinquents, a bunch of us kind of like outliers out there freezing in November and, it was a Prairie, Montana. And we became a big family out there, and, made a beautiful Western, but had to take the hit on not making a big blockbuster, kind of like, it wasn't the bang I feel like, Ben Shapiro and Jeremy and all of them really wanted to get, make their statement. But it was the right thing to do.
Man, you've got a history of standing by your word, and it's just, there's basically nobody does that anymore. And especially people in your position. And man, you're just such a great example, to people coming up and who are in there still, who are looking for some courage. And just thank you for being that way.
Thank you. I mean, I'm a complete, human being with such incredible flaws everywhere. And I wouldn't put me on any pedestal, or I don't want people to. I think that the world has gone so far into sickness that just when somebody's just regularly kind of thinking healthier or more logically, that's actually an act of courage. And then I was like, well, I've been through a lot. I feel like we all have been through so much, but, I wasn't pressured when I was a little girl. I wasn't pressured. I have to thank my mom for being my leader in this. Like, don't sacrifice yourself, value yourself. And so I wasn't pressured by Hollywood. I never.
You weren't pressured, or the pressure didn't affect you?
I never sacrificed myself to get a job. I never had the Me Too moment. I mean, I've had awful moments that would have been considered like, yeah, that was extremely inappropriate on their part, but I wasn't a participant. So I just really held on to, my agent and manager at the time used to get so upset with me because they're like, Gina, you're always saying no. And I'm like, well, I'm not doing that. So it just kind of stuck.
We're more than halfway through the year, and let's fast forward to the end. Did you check off your dream goals, or are you still daydreaming? If mastering a new language is on your list, Babbel's ready for you. Don't waste hundreds of dollars on private tutors. Speak like a whole new you with Babbel, the science-backed language learning app that gets you talking. Babbel's 10-minute lessons are quick and handcrafted by over 200 language experts, ready to get you talking your new language in 3 weeks. Because talking is the key to really knowing any language, many of you know I recently traveled to Austria for an interview. Babbel was perfect for learning basic phrases and words I needed to get around. Getting up to speed fast made my trip stress-free, and I'll be using Babbel's speech recognition technology to help perfect my pronunciation and accent for the next one. Here's a special, limited time deal for our listeners. Right now, get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/SRS. Get up to 60% off babbel.com/SRS, spelled BABBEL.com/SRS. Rules and restrictions may apply. Visit babbel.com for terms and details. You've got only a few months until the 2024 election takes place, and who knows where the country's going to be. What will the national debt be? How many more political tricks will there be? That's why I've teamed up with a top-rated precious metals company, Goldco, to diversify and help protect my savings with gold and silver before it's too late. We live in unprecedented times, and for me, that calls for action. Goldco made sure I had all the information I needed to make the best decision for myself and for my family. They've helped people like you and me place over $2.5 billion into gold and silver. Right now, they're offering up to 10% instant match and bonus silver if you qualify while supplies last. So go to shawnryanshow.com or call 855-936-GOLD and see if you qualify to get your bonus silver today. You'll also get a complimentary wealth protection kit to learn more about what precious metals can do for you. That's 855-936-GOLD or visit shawnryanshow.com. Performance may vary. Consult with your tax attorney or financial professional before making an investment decision.
My fight name, actually, in MMA was Conviction. So that's kind of stuck.
Nice.
And I pray to God, that it does stick continually through my life, I have plenty of awful stories I could tell you about myself, but I feel like I'm on the up and up. And finally, I was wondering when maturity would kick in. I was thinking it would 30s, yeah, anytime. But it really honestly didn't kick in until 40. I was a late bloomer.
I'm still waiting. But so how did you wind up in Montana? Was it that set?
Because of we were supposed to shoot the white knuckle, the Daily White Knuckle, SAG union, all of that in Nashville, in Tennessee area. The director, he knew he was from Montana, and so we went up to Montana and we ended up shooting up in Montana, and I fell in love with it. I fell in love with Prairie, Montana. I had seen 25 states at that time. Just by traveling in Nashville and taking our time and then traveling back and just seeing all these states. And then when I got to Montana, I just looked at this big open sky and I was like, I can breathe here and I feel safe here. I feel safe in Montana, and the people are they're not going to make it easy on you. Oh, you want horses? Yeah. Well, you're going to learn how to handle your own horses. And it's just been such a learning. I mean, it's kind of funny because I come out here and I'll get dressed up and, but when I go back home, I'm shoveling, horse stuff and trying to figure out how to get into these horses, trust area and take care of them And then the chickens are a whole nother thing.
So you're doing the whole thing out there.
Yeah.
You got a ranch?
Well, yeah, it's a little ranch. I'm trying to figure out the weeds. I love my John Deere zero turn. It's one of my favorite things ever. I freaking love it. Never done any of this. I mean, I used to ride horses when I was little, but my poor stepdad did all the work. Now I'm doing the work, and Kevin's doing the work, and I love getting on that John Deere and just like trying to figure out how can I make this look pretty without all of this dead grass hanging around, because we get that long grass that goes up to your like waist, and I always get stuck, and I've almost flipped it a couple times because the damn thing like catches on the branches, and all my neighbors probably just look at me like, good Lord, everybody thinks we should have a reality show just based on me.
Man, I love Montana. I just love it out west. They've done
It's calm.
a great job of land conservation.
Yeah.
Because here, I mean, I don't know how much you recognize her, but this place, Nashville area, Franklin, like.
Well, it seems like I was just in Knoxville. It seems like they have conserved a lot of land there.
That's good.
I mean, just flying in, I was like, there's trees and Knoxville looks pretty nice.
They are turning this into a concrete jungle over here. It's pretty sad.
Nashville kind of reminds me of old school Vegas, like a Western old school Vegas. Because my family, I'm a Nevada girl, even though I was born in Dallas. But Nashville feels like what my papa must have seen. My papa, Jackie's my grandfather. He passed last year. And it must have been what he would have seen when he moved from Ardmore, Oklahoma to Las Vegas and just had this little tiny strip. And he actually got into the gas station business.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. So he borrowed $5,000 from my grandmother's mom, Mama Cobb, and got a partner. And they got this gas station. And then the hotels started going up all around them. And so the hotels, some of the mafiosos, they didn't like that, people were coming over to the gas station to get gas and to, get the convenience store, which my grandma was smart enough to say, buy the land. So they put up a wire fence so that would make it all the way through to the sidewalk. And so my papa had to go over there and ask them to take the wire fence down, and had to do a deal with them. And they said, okay, we'll take the wire fence down as long as we can put slot machines in your gas stations. And so they bartered there.
No kidding.
Yeah. Yeah. That was like 75 years ago when they moved there.
Man, that's crazy.
And then the other family was in Reno, Nevada, getting into the casino business. So both of my grandfathers are quite, I'm a Nevada girl.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to dig into your childhood, but first, everybody on the show gets a gift.
Another gift?
Another gift.
It's like chocolate.
Any guesses?
Coffee?
No.
What is this?
Those are Vigilance Elite gummy bears.
Oh, very cool.
Made in the USA. They're still legal in all 50 states.
What are they? Weed gummy bears? Oh.
They're just gummy bears.
Just gummy bears.
Everybody thinks that. We had somebody email in saying they're on their 5th bag and they don't feel anything yet. And I had Vivek on. You know Vivek?
Oh, yeah. I love him.
And he ripped one open immediately and
I
started eating them.
I don't know him personally, so I can't say I love him, but I appreciate his voice.
I do too.
Oh my gosh,
I really like that guy.
Smart man, seems like.
He dove right in, and I said, yeah, the effects of those will kick in here in about 30 minutes.
I'm going to try one. I'll try one. This is very cool. So why did you decide that you wanted gummy bears?
Oh, man, it's a long story. But so I told you downstairs I was in the tactical training business for a while. And I always kind of look at the market and see what everybody's doing. Mm-hmm. And then I do the opposite. And so everybody in that game was all protein shakes and chicken breasts and funnest for pussies. And I was like, man, I like junk food. So
Oh, okay,
this is what we're
sweet.
doing. And then I was going to make CBD gummies. And my marketer told me, don't do that. You'll get sued like Jewel for marketing to kids. So I said, fine, we'll just do regular gummy bears because I love gummy bears.
Joel got sued for that?
I guess.
That's
So,
like unfortunate.
so that's how that came about.
You should have her on.
I would love to have her on.
Joel, we think you're wonderful. Come on.
Absolutely.
He's a wonderful man.
Thank you. But yeah, so I think we should do a life story, and then towards when we get to that point, we'll talk all about Disney and all the great stuff they're doing these days.
Yeah.
But
Those hard-hitting shows that are really...
Man. But yeah, so where did you grow up?
I was born in Dallas, Texas. I lived there for 1 and 2 years old. My dad played for the Dallas Cowboys, backup quarterback to Roger Staubach. So he didn't see a lot of playing time, but he did play at Thanksgiving, and he did well. He was a quarterback at UNLV, and until Randall Cunningham broke his records. So he was quite an athletic, awesome human being, very charismatic. Like, it's so funny. He has this big afro, and he's like very like, they look like I think it's Northern Italians, like darker Italians, although, you know, he has a lot more Italian than I do, but it's obviously like going away, you know, the more I got Southern from Ardmore, Oklahoma, and then I've got Italian from my Papa Don Carano. So yeah, he was playing for the Dallas Cowboys, so we lived there, and I was born there. While a tornado was trying to touch down while I was being born.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I always feel like a storm is chasing me. I have a thing with weather. I have a sensitivity to weather. And then we moved to Nevada after he retired. Well, we moved to Pittsburgh because they started a whole new smaller league that didn't last. And so we lived there for 2 years. And then we moved to Nevada, and he joined the rest of his family in the hotel business.
Oh, okay.
And so that was Reno, Nevada. Lived there till I was 8. And then my mom's, she was born in Las Vegas with my Papa Jack, who I told you about the gas stations. Mm-hmm. And so we moved to Las Vegas, and yeah, we grew up in Las Vegas, which is not somewhere I would suggest raising children.
Yeah. And you have 2 sisters?
Yeah.
Where do you fall in line?
Where do you think I fall in line? Do I look like a first, middle, or child, or like a baby?
First.
Really? Nope.
I say that because of leadership.
Oh, well, that would be a longer story, but I'm middle.
You're in the middle child.
Mm-hmm.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Definitely wouldn't have guessed that.
I see things from all directions.
Right on.
Yeah. Right
on. What kind of stuff were you into as a kid?
Well, getting into trouble. Me and my older sister, we just had she's this like free spirit, and she just wanted to learn about what she was missing out on in life, I guess. You'd have to ask her. But we lived out in the middle, like 30, 45 minutes outside of town. Well, now there's all those houses out there. But she loved to sneak out every night. And then I had a best friend, Michelle, who's still a good friend. And we would, fish for 40s, which were strangely like easy to get from people from like 7-Elevens.
Fish for what?
40s?
What is that?
Like 48 ounces of beer.
Right on.
And Old English, actually, which I tried it a couple years ago, and I cannot believe we used to drink that. So hard. I mean, destroyed myself. I mean, we would get our 40s, and then a couple times, like me and my friend Michelle, we would like climb up the back, and like try to figure out how to jump up to get to that, or like build something to get to that ladder, and then get on top of the, 7-Eleven. We're all in 8th grade. I don't know how old you are when you're then. And we just like watch all the drug deals happen below, and we'd be drinking our 40s on top of 7-Eleven.
Nice.
Yeah, we got into trouble a lot in my childhood. But then by playing basketball, softball, volleyball, I think I loved competition. I loved doing that. That was like a release for me. And so that kept me on the straight and narrow. And so we went to a tiny, small Christian school in the middle of Las Vegas, like 5 minutes away from the Strip, and right next to a gay bar, and right next to a jewelry store that was always getting robbed, and across the street from a pool hall. My dad was pissed that this is where my mom wanted to send us to school, but she just wanted us to go to a Christian school. And it was a pretty delinquent school with some precious people in it. And our tires are getting slashed by like the middle school next door, so it was just kind of like a funny existence.
No kidding.
Yeah, I only graduated with 30 other kids. And so when we started playing basketball, barely anybody knew how to get the ball across, half court, and we were getting crushed all the time. And so, I don't know, I was a natural athlete, and I moved myself from a forward because our point guard couldn't get the ball when I was in 8th grade. She couldn't get it past half court. And so then I just took over, and, me and my sister played together for 2 years. My older sister was very much more graceful than I was in basketball. I was just like a beast, just a beast. Sometimes I get the top score, or sometimes you would see like, I'm surprised I didn't crush down that poor, basketball hoop. But if anybody fouled my teammates, like they were getting fouled.
There was going to be hell to pay, huh?
There was going to be hell because they were, my best friend was like this tiny little super aggressive like defense. Her name's Ashley. Super aggressive defense, and so they'd like elbow her, and she was tiny, and she was like the pastor's daughter, and she wouldn't really do anything about it. So then I would do something about it.
Nice.
So and we ended up going all the way to state and winning state for single A, this little tiny Christian school.
Man,
I got my eardrum busted out. I think all the mothers were like, oh, from the other teams, like, I thought there was supposed to be a Christian school, because we just like were fighting out there, traveling around, just fighting to try to we just had this very small amount of people on our team. And then I got top scorer at our state tournament in Reno, Nevada, and we only won by 1 point. It was a gift that I could give my grandfather, that he was our coach. We didn't have outfits. We didn't have, he bought us all our outfits new. He bought all of the male varsity, junior varsity outfits new. He bought UNLV, the massive contributor to sports for UNLV, because he was a big believer in sports saving children's lives. So he was having us running these plays, these college plays, by my senior year, and we built up a team, and then at the end we ended up winning state, which was a victory.
Wow.
Yeah, very special. We both, me and my papa, who's now passed, never went back and watched that game. But I was like throwing him from like half court, and everybody was like, no, and okay, this is good. Okay, it went through. And then it was funny because I went from point guard, and there's this massive middle that just, nobody could defend her. And so I go from point guard back to like just all over this massive woman. And I shut her down, and so that's why we won.
Wow.
A big reason why we won.
So you were kind of a protector from a super young age.
Yeah.
And you've carried that with you all the way through life.
Yeah, well, I think after my parents got divorced, my sisters are not, you know, we needed one. We needed a protector in our home. And who else was going to do it? And so I, I felt so just internally that I am the protector and I'll protect them. And I tried my hardest.
When you say, so this started at home, so what did you need a protector from at home?
My older sister had gotten into some extremely heavy drugs like meth. Well, I tried meth my first time in 9th grade. And, it started getting more and more introduced to us. And, she just, I like to respect her privacy, but she just, needed help.
Mm-hmm.
And it caused a extremely dangerous upbringing that I know she didn't mean. She's a beautiful person, but it caused me to grow up fast. And I wanted to make sure my little sister didn't experience it like I did. And so I had to step up because my mom was torn to pieces. My dad was torn to pieces. My dad lived in a different city and nobody really knew what to do. And I knew, all the friends and I knew all, what was going on. So, like her best friend, Camille, was taken. It was so deep that her best friend, Camille, was taken out. She got involved, I think, in between two of the drug, gangs and was taken out in the middle of the desert and shot.
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
This is your sister's best friend.
Yeah, when we were in high school. And I remember we used to, in our truck, we used to like drive around in our baby blue truck and, just be wild and just love it. And Camille was so full of life and just this is really, was not afraid to throw down, and she was all 5'2". And just a beautiful person who, just got wrapped up in drugs and the wrong people that that is Las Vegas, and that is childhood to me.
Wow. How did you find out she got rolled up in the middle of the desert?
They found her. Yeah. And we got taken. I went with my older sister to the funeral. And like, I tell these stories and, that's just, I don't know why that was our situation, because I came from a really well-to-do family after my grandfather's made such a wonderful life. So I have such a different perspective than even a lot of my cousins have. I have the perspective of what life can be and this glorious, beautiful, like, rich and famous people. And then I have this other perspective of, losing so many people to such unnecessary children, like people in their 20s. I mean, in Las Vegas, just losing them to, it usually had to do with drugs. I lost my friend Bert, who, that was a tough one. My ex-boyfriend's brother ended up killing him in the middle of the desert, stabbing him 31 times. And that Bert used to live with me in my early 20s. Like, it was unreal that we were experiencing these kinds of things. And, and that's mild, I think, compared to a lot of what people experience in Los Angeles and Chicago. And, but I got a taste of that kind of lifestyle, which, I don't know, I would never raise children. Not that I have any, or I don't know if I plan on having any, but I wouldn't raise them in the city.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why me and my wife moved out of where we were in Florida for the exact same reasons. But I mean, at what age did that kind of exposure to that lifestyle
Start.
Yeah.
I would say, well, my older sister was a free spirit, so that was from early, you know. But around, I think, after she had moved to college and started coming back, things got pretty serious. Around 16 is when things started really ramping up for me, where I would, take cough syrup and I'd have to be up all night, chasing, her around the town. And then I would get that codeine cough syrup and just try to sleep during the day and then try to make it to basketball practice or softball practice. And the whole, staff faculty kind of knew what was going on in my house at that time. So the principal at one time, I got kicked out of English class because I was exhausted. And the principal knew me and knew my situation. So she said, honey, come on in and just sleep on my couch for a couple hours. So it was that's when that started.
Damn.
But I feel like I'm very sensitive to it too. A severe mental health problem that is inspired by, taking the innocence of children in whatever way, whether that's sexual or if it's introducing them to drugs and alcohol or whatever it is that gateway. It's a problem because if you don't protect children when they're younger and give them a solid base, then they're starting off from a shaky foundation that doesn't help them in their life. And so my older sister, she's a tough one and she's doing good. And hopefully, I love you if she ever watches this. And I am proud of everything that she came through. And I know that she tries every single day. And so much of us do. And then my little sister, I think she got more of a protected, not perfect, but more of a protected upbringing. Not perfect, but so she's actually over, she's a complete opposite. She makes sure everything's perfect. And she's got 3 little girls, and my older sister's got this adorable little girl. So
Are you guys close?
Yeah. But there is that you have to work with mental health, between all of us, we have to work on our mental health. And if I've been in bad places, mental health in my life, just like anybody has, and my life could have gone bad and south at one point, multiple times. But mixed martial arts is the thing that brought me, instead of going the direction that I saw all of these people going in Las Vegas, mixed martial arts put me on the right path. And I became addicted to that instead of, fishing for 40s. Well, by that time I was 21.
So when you say, I mean, was there a specific incident that happened that made you kind of take the role as a protector within your family, or was it gradual?
I think some things you just kind of all express through art instead of put into words, which is why I like art, because you really can't share without betraying people you care about. And so I think I'd rather express those kinds of things through art.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this then. So I I didn't have a childhood like that. And just from doing, these interviews with all kinds of people, you know, from all walks of life, what I've realized is, and you're part of this testament now, is there's so many kids out there that go through sexual trauma, abuse, physical and sexual. I mean, I I don't have exact numbers, but it's like every guest that comes through here now has been through something as a kid. And so I guess what I'm asking is there's obviously a ton of kids that are going through similar situations right now with a a tough home life and going through all kinds of trauma. And so what advice would you have for kids that are going through something similar to that?
Well, and I can share this because and he has shared it on the Joe Rogan podcast. His name's Kevin Ross. And first of all, I would like to say my mother and my father and my family are incredible. And there was no sexual abuse coming from my family. My mother and father are wonderful, and they did the best they could to protect us, with my mom working jobs and my dad working a heavy job and living in a different city. And, so they did the absolute best they could. And so when you hear these stories, even when I have dinner with my mom and she bursts into tears because she was the kind of mom that would, you come home, let me smell your breath. And, we're sitting down at the table and we're praying. And even when her and my dad got divorced, it was, we're praying for your father on the way to school. And she was, and still is she's now my best friend, and is heartbroken to hear, like what the world that we kind of, me and my older sister kind of like were experiencing. And my dad he's just a wonderful man. He just was a very much workaholic and was getting it done and being there for his family, which was just hustling and still hustling to this day. They are an incredible family. So they are wonderful people, and I am blessed to have come from this family of two groups, two different clans of one of the most beautiful, gentle-hearted, amazing people. And so my childhood and becoming the protector, they tried their best. And so this can actually happen, I feel like, to people with wonderful families, even if they're broken families. Things can happen, to anybody. And you're left watching these parents like fall to pieces. Like, how could this happen? We thought we were, doing the best we could, and we're good parents. And it's not the parents' fault, because the world is a sick world and it grabs a hold of them. But I can tell you the story of a success story of a sexual abuse, which happened to Kevin, who is my heart. And he actually grew up in a home that he was with his dad, living with his dad, who he was living with her around like 13, 14. And his dad had a wife who was, somewhere in her 30s. And his dad was out of town all the time. And so his dad would leave, and this woman would give Kevin ecstasy and sexually abuse him for 2 years. And not only was she doing that to, a 14-year-old for 2 years, then she was doing it also to an 11-year-old for 2 years. And when I look at Kevin and I look at that kind of extreme thing that happened to him, it's like he wakes up every day. For a long time, it wasn't good. For a long time, he hurt himself a lot. And then he found mixed martial arts. And instead of cutting up his body or drinking himself halfway to death or, doing drugs and all of that, he picked up mixed martial arts. And it was nice because his dad was sitting there and Kevin had his 40 in his hand and didn't have any money to pay for classes. And his dad was like, seeing how out of control it was getting. And we loved each other so much. At that time I was like 21 and he was 23. And it was getting out of control. And, well, it'd been out of control. And his dad said, what would it take for you to put down that 40, Old English? And Kevin's like, well, his best friend had died of a heart failure earlier on. And he said he had promised Mo that he would become a fighter someday. And that's what was a dream. And so he told his dad, well, if you give me some money to go into mixed martial arts, then I'll put this down, And if 40 of Old English, or at least back in that time, you had to finish your 40. You don't not finish it, right? And his dad was like, well, then put it down right now. And I'll do that for you. And I'll give you your first, money to go and take classes. And it was a hard decision for Kevin, and he put it down, left it there, and, had certain bouts in his life where he, experimented with drinking here and there. Now he can actually have like a beer or two and he's fine. He's not like but for a decade, he had to really not drink anything. And he became what I would consider the groundbreaking Muay Thai person who just made Muay Thai extremely popular in America. And by watching him clean up his life, and I'm absolutely head over heels for him, still am, I would go in and watch him, and I started training. And then we got introduced to this beautiful Thai culture and a respect, of like, when they ask you to say Master Toddy or Master Chan, and you're sitting there like, I'm going to call somebody Master. And like, this is odd. But then you're like, all of a sudden you're like, Swadika, Master Toddy, and Swadika, Master Chan, and bowing before and after. And, it's just a beautiful self-discipline that we chose and let the rest of the group kind of, they kept on partying, they kept on drinking, and eventually Bert passed, and we just kind of like decided that me and him we weren't going down that way. And so we mixed martial arts. I believe God brought mixed martial arts into my life to make sure I didn't end up how I had seen so many people end up in my life.
Wow. So you got into martial arts through your boyfriend.
Kevin. Fiance.
We
just need to have the ceremony is all.
And you guys are still together to this day.
So we took a big, and it's really funny. My mixed martial arts career took off as soon as I started. People wanted, because I was good, because I was athletic. Kevin was good as well, but people were just so fascinated by how is this female doing this? So I just really took off, and I had a lot of firsts for women in sports. I was the first sanctioned female bout in Las Vegas, which, by the way, my dad, and I'll always give him a hard time for this, but I love him for it. He didn't want me to fight, neither did my Papa Don. So they call up the boxing commission, because my dad used to be on the boxing commission. He was actually on the boxing commission when Mike Tyson bit the ear.
No way.
Yeah. Oh. So he really liked Mike Tyson actually a lot, because he understood his background, and he understood that Tyson came from such a troubled background. My dad actually had really a lot of empathy in his heart for him when that ear bite happened, just to find out, Holyfield, right? he'd bitten the ear years earlier.
Yeah.
So it's like, it happens.
Yeah.
But so they called the boxing commission for this first female sanctioned bout, and they said, "There's no way you're gonna let my daughter is not going to be the first female sanctioned MMA bout. It's not happening." Because I'd been doing Muay Thai before that. I had garnered a record of 12 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw in Muay Thai. So I was ready to move to MMA by that point. And and so my family wasn't having it. And so I was going through all of these tests and all of these extra stuff. And Herb Dean, the referee in the UFC, he would always laugh because he knew how they tried to stop me from being a fighter. And then they became my biggest supporters. Then they became just so proud of me. And my dad's proud of me. My Papa Don, before he passed, he was proud of me. So, they weren't able to stop it. My first fight was with a girl who shouldn't have been in there with me because I had a record of 12-1-1 in Muay Thai and I was doing well. So I finished her off in 39 seconds.
39 seconds?
Yeah, but it was just like, those old UFC fights that you see?
Yeah.
That's what this looks like. Like, I wasn't getting the underhooks. I went over. It was pretty funny. But I just kind of like machine gunned down on her, and they called it. And I got the bug for MMA then, and then had a beautiful career. Yeah.
How did they? So you started in Muay Thai, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you went to Thailand.
Yeah.
And trained there.
Yeah, we went to Thailand and trained, which was one of the best experiences of my life. And I'm sure you can attest to traveling is so important for people to see other countries and see how they live. And there's the good and the bad in it. There's the part where you really appreciate what America has, and it gives you a whole appreciation. And then there's another part of, just the respect level of like you're not taking things for granted and wasting things, and so you couldn't just walk into a Thai gym then. Maybe you could now since it's getting more popular, but then it was like you better earn being here, and if you're gonna get your ass kicked if you're not supposed to be here. We don't want that here.
Yeah. And
so you'd always have to take the jokes, and you'd have to smile and nod for about 2 weeks until they realized that you were serious. And then after a month, you're in.
Wow.
And then they just opened up their hearts. And the Thai people are such beautiful people. And they struggle a lot with people coming to their country and completely sexually abusing all of them. Mm-hmm. Everybody from around the world goes to Thailand and thinks, let's go to the ping pong shows. Let's go down and walk the, strand, and prostitution and sex trafficking. And it's right there. It's not hidden. It's right there for everybody to see. And I remember we were walking out of a bar one night after we'd just fought. We all did pretty good. And we're all banged up and bruised, which is actually one of the best feelings in the world. After a fight and you win. And you almost, if you don't have a black eye, you wish you have one, because it feels like we went through that. And so as long as if your body's all banged up and bruised, you feel like you did something. And I'm telling you, these small Thai girls, they could kick. Like, there's nobody that kicks like the Thais. They have that down. They have it in their blood. You never been kicked so hard than by a Thai person. I'll guarantee that. But I remember I was walking out, and it was like 2:00. And I saw these 2 children playing, on the road. And I look up, and there's a man up on some staircases in like shadows. And I was pretty drunk. And I realized what that was. And it was sex trafficking. And it was sexual abuse. It was like whatever foreigner that wanted to come in and have their way with these children at 2 a.m. That's what they were out there for. And it was a boy and a girl. And I'll never forget it, even though I was, drunk. And they literally, the Thai guys said, no, we got to keep walking. You cannot make a scene here. And like they were translating that through and I just was bawling, crying while they two people got on both sides of me and they just kind of drug me away from that. And
wow.
That's a normal thing. That's happening on our border. That's all over our border. And I had one tiny experience of it, and it devastated me.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. What are your self-care non-negotiables? Maybe you never skip leg day, or maybe you always take a bubble bath. When your schedule is packed with kids' activities, big work projects, and more, it's easy to overlook taking care of yourself. But when you feel like you have no time for yourself, non-negotiables like therapy are more important than ever. Therapy is helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself, and it isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma. Therapy is for everyone. It's important to take care of you so you can keep taking care of everyone else. Therapy helps you do just that. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/Shawn today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Shawn. When I first started this whole podcasting thing, an online store was about as far from my mind as you can get. And now, most of you already know this, but I'm selling Vigilance Elite gummy bears online. We actually have an entire merch collection that's coming soon. And let me tell you, it is so easy because I'm using a platform that is extremely user-friendly, and that's Shopify. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. What I really like about Shopify is it prompts you all the things that you want to do with your web store, like connect your social media accounts, write blog posts, just have a blog in general. Shopify actually prompts you to do this. You want people to leave reviews under your items? You can do that on Shopify. It's very simple. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout, 36% better on average compared to the other leading commerce platforms. Shopify is a global force for millions of entrepreneurs in over 175 countries and power 10% of all e-commerce platforms here in the United States. You can sign up right now for $1 a month. It's shopify.com/Shawn. That's all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Shawn now to grow your business no matter what stage you're in. That's shopify.com/Shawn.
And it's, Satan wants to crush the ones closest to him. And those are children. And so children is been placed on my heart since beginning of the lawsuit. Before the lawsuit happened, I prayed. I was like, I'm just out here in a desert, canceled, and I don't know where you're going to have me be, but if there's any way I can do anything, it would be to help children not lose their innocence, not lose their, have a safer environment in any capacity that I can. And a week later is when I got the phone call from X, or the email from X that said, we'd like to take up your case.
Well, we'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there. But let's stick with MMA now. Although I am there seems to, I don't know really much about Hollywood or how any of this kind of stuff works, but I definitely see a wave of people that are tired of Hollywood and whatever goes on in there, which I'm hoping you can give me some insight into. But what I do see is these, I don't know if what you would call them production companies maybe, but these smaller, like more boutique-ish type production companies like the Daily Wire, like Angel Studios seems to be coming out with some, I mean,
Amazing.
the Sound of Freedom was amazing.
Yes, that was great.
And I guess they got another one coming out here soon that has to do with, I think it's do you know about it? Is it the foster care system or the adoption system or something?
I didn't know if it was already out or not, but yeah, I know what you're talking about. And I think I've had a couple people say that they've seen it and they absolutely love it. Angel Studios is putting out some real quality stuff. I feel like our little Western had a lot going against it, but I think it's still, I'm proud of it. I'm proud of under the circumstances that we were under. I think that we put a nice Western out there. And then Daily Wire is doing something called the Pentagon Cycle, which I think is just going to be an absolute, I'm so excited. I mean, I'm excited for those actors. I'm excited for those actresses. They got to travel to Rome. They got to travel to Budapest. They got to, use their accents and get into character. And Jeremy Boring is an absolute phenomenal storyteller. And I can only imagine the type of director he could be, because I've seen his delivery on scripts and he is very, very, I saw a picture of him on his Instagram and I was like, he's shining because this is where he's supposed to be. And so, there's no bad blood between me and the Daily Wire. Angel Studios has never contacted me, but I support those two companies full-heartedly because they're giving other people an option to not have to, do things that compromise their beliefs. Mm-hmm. And it's beautiful. So I'm more excited about these little superstars that are going to come out of these shows.
Yeah.
And then they're going to get contacted by Hollywood and they're going to have to make their decisions and, see if they're going to stick to their values or not, because they will be faced with all of it.
You think Hollywood will pick them up? Oh,
yeah. Hollywood's struggling. Hollywood is dying. It's either that 1% where you get the Oppenheimer. Is that Oppenheimer? Mm-hmm. You either get those wonderful, great movies, and you get like that 1% of like awesome actors that, or you're getting the younger group that, God bless them, like that they're being just manufactured to be in that 1%. But what happens when you do that is you're losing art. You're losing soul. Like everything that we love about watching films is like watching somebody's soul come out. And when you train that too hard out of a person, all actors start looking the same. There's only so many Leonardo DiCaprio movies you can watch. There's only so many accents you can do. He's awesome. He's amazing. But you know what I mean? Like you want, in my opinion, you want to keep art free. Mm-hmm. And right now they're manufacturing everything so that they can control it. And that goes from writers, directors to, actors. And that's why we're struggling that way. And we're struggling where were the musicians throughout COVID? Where were the rappers? Where was freaking Tupac? Where were these people that were saying, no, we're not doing this? They were getting paid off to say, go put this in your arm and put a muzzle over your face. And it's very obvious now who benefited from the lockdowns, who the ones who shut their mouth still have the jobs and, worked their way up. And the ones who struggled are the ones that said something, had to restart their lives, got kicked out of their jobs, lost, family members, lost human beings, and didn't cower to these large corporations. So it's very, very black and white now, where there used to be a lot more middle ground. So hopefully Daily Wire, Angel Studios, and, like what I'm doing, I'm a Lone Ranger. Not surprising, but I'm gonna do my own thing since I apparently don't really fit anywhere. I'm not woke, and then I'm not, I guess I'm not like conservative enough. I'm somewhere strangely in this middle ground.
Just being true to yourself.
Yeah.
There's not very many people like that left.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, though, would you be,
would I have it any other way?
Yeah.
Looking back, no, but it's been hard. It's been lonely. But it also changed my perspective on, I see it all now. I want to say all of it, but I see it for what it is now. And it's,
I'm kind of going through a thing right now, actually with the show that we're releasing today. It's going to release in like 20 minutes.
Yeah, I heard you.
And
I was wondering what that was.
Yeah, it's, I went and interviewed, this isn't about me, so I'm just going to breeze through this, but I went and interviewed the commander of the Afghan resistance in Vienna. And because I want the truth about what happened with the withdrawal.
Yes.
And he has warnings for the U.S., and the U.S. has blacklisted him. The State Department blacklisted him. These are the guys that the SEALs, the Green Berets, the special ops units trained and worked alongside with for 20 fucking years, just to watch Biden and his administration abandon them and not only abandon them, but I mean their wives are being raped, their daughters are being raped, their sons are being killed and raped, and they are assassinating these guys, and just one by one. And they can't even, we didn't even burn anything in that country when we left. That usually there would be we would destroy classified material. Well, we had biometrics, we had photos, we had retina scans, we had everything of our allies, because for a Westerner to go into an Arab country, you can't tell people apart. It's hard.
So that's how you do it. Was on purpose that we didn't burn anything?
I don't know. I wasn't there.
Because now that same stuff is being used.
So now they're using that. They can walk around with these cameras, go door to door, take a picture, and it will tell you, this is so-and-so who is part of the Afghan Special Forces working alongside, this SF group. And anyway, so I wanted to expose that. And I've been kind of on a trail of doing that. And I get worried, because nobody else is doing this shit.
Yeah.
I worry about my family. I worry about, and I talked to this gentleman. His name's Scott Van. He's a retired lieutenant colonel in the Green Berets. And I call him as a sounding board. And he's like, I told him, I feel like very alone. Nobody else is doing this. And this comes with a price. And he said, when you do the right thing, when nobody else is doing it, it feels very alone. And so he's right. And you're doing the right thing. And he just told me this like yesterday. So it's just kind of a weird coincidence that you're talking about how alone you feel for doing the right thing. And
that you're feeling that too.
It just, so as shitty as it feels, it kind of lets you know you're on the right track, because there aren't very many people out there doing the right thing anymore.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're not necessarily doing the wrong thing, but they sure as fuck aren't standing up for what's right.
Isn't that something? I get An actress pulled me aside yesterday at the Knoxville Fan Expo, speaking as slowly as she could. I appreciate everything you're doing. I'm on your side. And I'm so tired. I'm so tired of it.
Yeah.
Like, enough of, I mean, President Trump was shot at a couple days ago. And you have people making fun of it. Oh, darn it, missed him. And it's like, it actually killed a man.
Yeah.
And I went off on I went off on Jack Black on, it goes along with my case as well. It's like, you're going to allow a man to stand up on stage and, oh shoot, it didn't kill an ex-president or the last president. But it did kill someone. And it's just the sickness and the evilness. It's like, it's getting more and more easy to distinguish between good and evil because it's becoming so much more obvious, and it's floating to the surface, and they're losing the ability to hide what is good and evil, and it's becoming very obvious. So, and do I think Jack Black is a bad person? Probably not. He's probably just not thought it through and didn't really realize what he was saying at that moment. It's ignorance is bliss. But
didn't he come out and apologize?
He did put something out today that said he's canceling his tour or something, and I think
is he canceling his tour, or did they just? I
think they canceled it, and then he said he canceled it. So who knows?
Funny, but it's funny how sorry people are every time it dents the bank account.
Right
now, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
my bad.
It's just kind of like we got so much repercussions for how many years now, and how many years has people before me been getting repercussions? I came in late, and I feel like I'm making quite a stamp and drawing attention to it, that this is enough. Like, you shouldn't have to hide your beliefs, and you shouldn't have to, freedom of religion, you should have freedom to, talk about who you're voting for. There needs to be, there's a Democrat, Republican, and independent party for a reason, and we should be able to have these debates. It shouldn't be you get kicked out of Hollywood because you're Republican, and Republicans shouldn't be having to hide in certain areas and have underground groups, which they do have, in order to speak about what they believe in. And,
Where is that?
Oh, I wouldn't know. I've never...
Republican underground groups?
Yeah.
Hiding from who?
They could not come out and say in Hollywood that you're basically a Republican. You just had to keep your mouth shut and you can get work. But all day long, we see Sarah Silverman flashing, the hey, vote for Trump, or no, vote for Biden and you'll get this, and they do compilations of Mark Rufio and Sarah Silverman, and all these people are just like, vote for this, vote for this. I mean, they're just completely selling themselves for the Democrat Party. Did you see any celebrities doing any campaigns whatsoever to, hey, vote for Republicans, And not that I would consider myself, I consider myself just, somewhere in the middle. I think I lean more towards being a conservative Republican now than I ever have. But I also am an artist, and I feel like, I don't want to be trapped too far in a box to where I don't have the freedom of exploring things. I do have morals that are extremely important to me with, that I have now kind of, I guess, become more responsible to, which I didn't have before 2019. And those grow every day. And that's a complicated thing, trying to tell stories in this kind of atmosphere and have morals be placed in these stories as well, because I'm an action girl and I love action. And I'm also drama, and I could do any of it, I think. But, when we're actually creating this really cool little sci-fi script at the moment, which will probably be our first, my first comeback film.
Cool.
Me, my manager, and a writer, and it's turning out really cool. But I have to make sure I'm writing that fine line of like not going too far with things and making sure that I'm staying convicted to what I would want, my sister and her children to see, at a certain age and not have it be a bad thing. So it's a very fine line that I'm writing. And I know God's going to just let me know, you stepped over there. Because he has a very fun way of dealing with me when I'm when I've stepped over any line.
Right on.
Yeah, and I'll take it. Because it just means he loves me and he wants me to be on the right track.
Well, we'll get into the faith stuff too. I can't wait to dive in on that. But back to your fighting career. So what happened in your Muay Thai career that got you as the first sanctioned female MMA fighter? I
was really good at it. I picked it up. And there was a bunch of us, So it just, people showed up to see me fight. And the more they showed up to see me fight, the bigger the cards got, the bigger the venues got. And the more, if my name was, at the top of the list, I worked myself up in those 14 fights to be somebody people paid to watch. And that's, I went up against the, very few girls that I'd seen fight before. I remember there's this one girl before I even had one fight, and her name was Christina Martin, I believe. And she came in like braids, and I just thought, oh my gosh, like that is insane. Like she's in my weight class, and I was like, I had like maybe one fight, maybe. I was like, oh my gosh, like how am I ever going to work my way up to that? And she worked out at Chuck Liddell's camp. And I was like, that's going to be tough whenever I get there. Well, I got there quite quickly. Master Shadi used to try to like fib on our records so that we could fight people with bigger records. So he said we had 10 fights when over here I have 2. And so they do that in Thailand all the time. And so I forget what number of fight she was. I showed up to a smoker. A smoker's where you show up to a gym, you don't know who you're going to fight, and you just end up fighting whoever's close to your weight class, no matter like the record.
Uh-huh.
And I showed up and I was like, oh, why is she here? Like she was just headlining at like one of the tiny casinos, And I was like, okay. And, you just show up and you fought whoever was there. And I ended up fighting her. And I ended up, they called it an exhibition, but I ended up beating her in that fight. And she didn't expect that. And so then our next fight was to take place at the Stardust, which is now imploded in Las Vegas, the Stardust Hotel. We used to fight there. That was a big show. And I'd say that one was a draw. That was my one draw. Of course, it was with that. If you're not overwhelmingly beating someone, you always feel like you're losing, But when I watched the tape back, I feel like, okay, yeah, it's a decent draw. But she hit real hard. She kicked real hard. And so then I trained for her a third time. And I trained my ass off. And I knocked her out clean on our third fight. I knocked her out like almost like the wind, just like punching wind right down through like the jaw area. And she went down. And that was my trilogy fight.
Damn.
Yeah. I went from looking up to her to fighting her 3 times. And yeah, that was a special one.
What did that feel like for you to KO her?
Well, it was just the whole fighting, looking across the cage at someone and knowing that at that moment, it doesn't matter who's in the crowd. It really doesn't even matter. Like it's who you are at that moment. you're bringing that. You're bringing everything you trained for, everything you ate, your mentality, your spirituality, how much you believe in yourself. If you've let your, boyfriend at the time get into your head, or if you've got, you just bring all of that of who you are in that moment to that moment, and you're looking at across at this person, knowing that this person is bringing that too, and they're going to try to hurt you as badly as possible to make you quit. So that's a very special, weird, intense moment between two people that everything else goes away, and it's addictive, I'd say.
I mean, I'm not a big MMA person. I don't follow it, but it seems to me you were very much a pioneer for women within the sport. Obviously, you were the first sanctioned fighter, and you still have a ton of respect to this day. In fact, I saw something that said Ronda Rousey would be the only person that she would come out of retirement to fight. I don't know if that's a compliment or...
It's a huge compliment.
Yeah.
It's a huge compliment. I was the first sanctioned bout in Nevada. Then I was the first people that the Showtime Elite XC signed, first female that they signed, and it gave me a whole $10,000. And I was like, oh my gosh, now I can really train. I don't have to worry about, and I was bartending at the same time. And then I was the first one on CBS. They did a documentary between me and a different fighter named Elena Maxwell. So I was right out in the beginning of making it popular so that people like Ronda Rousey, and she gives me credit for this, which is a beautiful thing. I've never had any problems with her. She said that, had she not seen me fight, she would have not known it was possible for women to do this. And so I might have not gotten to that UFC walkout, but I definitely through my career felt like I was blessed enough to be the person to break down those doors. And that's just, I used to say, they used to call me the face of MMA, and I just was like, I'm too young in my career for all of this, I have the Muay Thai fights, but like I'm just like everybody else. Why you're pushing me up so fast, And before you know it, on your 8th fight, you're fighting Cyborg, and you're not ready to fight Cyborg, but there's nobody else to fight. And they built this thing up, and you're like, well, I'm not going to not fight her, because my whole entire career was fighting the people that was put in front of me. So I was determined.
Man, no fear.
All fear, but also...
you overcame it.
Yeah, because doesn't it feel bad when you let that fear rule you? That's where you lose your... That's where it starts taking chunks out of your soul.
Have you ever been that person?
There's things I could have done better in my life, as far as like... I feel like I grew up a little bit immature just because I was fighting and acting. I feel like I was a little bit reckless, like I can definitely put back some whiskey, I can definitely act like a big old child. Well, I haven't now for years, but, there was that one wedding that I stole the golf cart, so there was that. I felt bad about that one. I'm sure I gave my family plenty of, they see the real me. I'm sure they were worried to their necks for me, because I was just had this big career flying around the world, meeting people. But I always, I was always able never to sell myself out for a job or, any of that. It was more of a...
Maybe you were a hellion, but it doesn't sound like you were overcome by fear.
No, maybe not.
So, how did the MMA...
Oh, the Cyborg fight, I was afraid. The Cyborg fight, I had an adrenaline dump. A massive one, to where I couldn't feel my legs. I don't know if you...
Really?
Have you ever had like that adrenaline where you lose some feeling of like how to work your arms? Like all of a sudden your arms aren't working?
I believe they just call that freezing in the moment.
Yeah.
So
I've had twice when that happened. One with my legs and one with my arms. The
really,
first one with my arms, and I was doing a K1 fight, and fight fans will know about that, but like they used to have this production that was kind of like a kickboxing more than Muay Thai. It was K1. And I wasn't supposed to win this fight. But they Master Chan is in the back. He's like, baby, okay. Like 1, 2, 1, 2. And I was like, sir,
oh man,
my arms aren't working. Sir, my arms aren't working. And he's like, okay, baby, all right. And he pats you on the back and he's like, out you go. And I'm like, walking out, which is just a weird feeling of, I can't move my arms. Are they going to start working? And then I go in between the ropes, go up, and we do the face off, and I'm like, they're still not working. and then I go back to the corner, and I'm just like, how am I going to fix this problem? Like my brain isn't attaching to my arms. And then I went out there and I had a hell of a fight. I won.
wow.
They worked. But in my cyborg fight, I lost the lower part of my body. My legs, they could walk, but they weren't walking. I was floating. I was having like an outer body experience, looking down on myself and like not feeling like I could control what was happening. And I felt no pain. I just felt like I couldn't control what I was doing. I was confused. And so it frustrates me, those feelings. It's like, it feels like being on top of a building, like those nightmares that I have nightmares where it's like I'm on top of the building, I'm holding on, but I can't tell my hands to hold. And they'll just let go because I can't make my hands hold. And that freaks me out. And so, do you have those dreams at all?
No.
You can hold on.
I have dreams where I used to have a lot of dreams where I'd be back in combat, and which is a good dream for me. I love those dreams.
Really?
The shitty part is, it will like, and I don't know what this means. I've like Googled it, but whatever. But I have these dreams where I'm in the middle of it. I'm in the middle of combat, the good old days, being at war with my team. And I'll have like some stupid mistake happen. Like I will have not loaded rounds in my magazines. And then I'm having to run around and ask all my teammates for magazines with bullets in them so that I can get in the fight. Or I forgot my gun, or insert whatever.
Yeah. Small mistake.
Major mistake.
But yeah.
Yeah, and it's the feeling of humiliation,
Powerlessness,
and completely, I mean, you're just a huge letdown. You're dead weight, at that point.
Yeah.
And those are nightmares to me.
Isn't that fascinating? And I wonder what that says. My nightmares are fear of not being able to hold on and make myself do what I need to do. And yours is not being somebody's burden.
Yeah, being somebody's burden, not being competent, things like that. Really, they get in my head.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Not much anymore, but.
They sneak up on us every once in a while.
Yeah. But, well, how did your MMA career end?
Well, it was a kind of a funny thing because I'm sitting there, biggest fight of my career, legs go out, adrenaline. They call the fight, I think, like 5 seconds before. I feel like if I could have gotten to that second round, I would have started getting my groove, my motion, my groove. My legs would have hit, like, maybe start pumping a little bit, But they called it 5 seconds before the bell. And I think if I could have gotten that second round, I would have given her hell because it was such an embarrassing first round. And I was like, sometimes the best thing you can do is jump over the ropes and fall into the cage, and you feel so embarrassed. You're like, oh, well, what do I got to lose now? Let's go swing, So I feel like I hated how that first round went, but I didn't get into that second round. And I went back into the locker room, sat, cried and cried with my gloves still on until I was ready to come out. And just complete humiliation and let down of your team. And the whole crowd was chanting for me, and it was just like a sad moment, when you see one of your favorite fighters just not be able to show up, which you see that a lot in fighting. And I understand it. Sometimes there's certain things going on in people's lives, or something's going on. They can't show up. They're not ready for that. So I got in the car and went to San Diego, and I was just sitting there feeling sorry for myself and confused because I knew I couldn't go back and fight her immediately. Like, I wasn't ready for that. I needed to build up my confidence again. So I was like, but I was just sad. And then I got this phone call from this guy that I'd met and said, oh, yeah, you can be in our, we'll represent you in Hollywood or whatever, but didn't really take me seriously. And then I got this phone call from Brett Normsberg, who did take me seriously then, because he said, Steven Soderbergh, famous, not just famous, but an incredible director, would like, this person out of all directors is who the big 1%ers want to work with.
Wow.
And he was watching my fight that night, and his wife had looked over at him and said, he had gotten fired off of Moneyball, actually, because they didn't give him creative control. So he had he had like a year to kind of like do his own thing. She said, because he's the type of guy you can call any entertainment business, anybody. He can call anybody, and then he was like, I want to do this movie, and they'll say, yeah. So he pitched it for 2 different studios, and they got a hold of me, and they said, Steven Soderbergh wants to come out. Where are you? He's in LA. I was like, I'm in San Diego. And they were like, he wants to come out. He's going to take the train. Would you go to lunch with him? And then, of course, my mom's like, honey, okay, about, these directors. You know about these Hollywood directors. You hear the stories all the time. I'm like, Ma, but you know me. And she's like, all right, okay. Well, take my car and call me if you need anything. And I'm like, we're going right down here to Coronado at a beautiful place. I had a black eye because I took an elbow to the, I forget what side, but I took an elbow to the forehead, so all the blood was draining down. So it's just the most ridiculous. And I don't know, he sat down and I was like, this is wonderful to meet you. Do you mind if I have some wine? And he's like, oh, by all means. And so we sat there for 4 hours, and he got to know me. He talked to me, and he said, I'd really like to do a movie with you. And I'll just be really honest with you. It'll happen really quick, or it won't happen at all. So, and I was like, sounds good to me. Not having any idea what that meant, And that was my intro into acting and Hollywood, and it's called Haywire. So I had Michael Douglas, Channing Tatum. I had Michael Fassbender, who's the first person who sat me down and said, because they gave me an acting coach the last week of this whole training session of learning how to shoot guns and learning all this stuff. They gave me an acting coach to the last week, and I'm like, what? How do you put these things, words aren't my thing, And so I remember sitting down with Michael Fassbender, the first, actor that I was working with in Ireland. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And he's like, right, okay. And he put a whiskey in front of me, and he's like, we're just going to run these back and forth. And he just, go fast, go slow, go fast, go slow. And he just kind of worked with me, and all of Ewan McGregor, Antonio Banderas, all these massive stars are in this, and they're all working with me and working me through not having ever been on movie set in that capacity, let alone being the lead. And so it was just a really beautiful, a really very ironic introduction.
So they all took you under their wing.
All of them, every single one of them. They just said, "I'll take care of you," in the scenes. And then I said, "Well, good. Well, I'll take care of you in the fight scenes." We'll just give a little trade. But they were that classy of a group that, yeah, I remember people saying it'll never be like this again, and it really wasn't until I'd say Jon Favreau and The Mandalorian.
Man,
was incredible.
That sounds like a great experience.
Yeah. It was amazing. And it was also painful. I had a miscarriage right before. So, between the movie, like there was a couple months of the movie getting set up, and I was doing the stunts for the movie and had to run to the bathroom and throw up. And, long story short, ended up having a miscarriage and never been through that before. And so I dove into haywire so hard because I was in so much pain and didn't want to face what was happening with someone who was my boyfriend, but we had no longer been together. So I escaped after we filmed Haywire to Thailand to train, just because that was my place where I'd go get myself collected. And I remember looking in the mirror and not recognizing my eyes. You know, my eyes were dark and sad. And I knew I needed to, you know, get on my knees and really kind of figure out how to find the light again. And it did take years for that to heal. But yeah, so that was my strange introductory.
So you had a miscarriage
while I was prepping for Haywire.
For your first movie.
Mm-hmm.
Cranked it out.
Yeah.
And then
had to deal with the effects afterwards.
So you compartmentalized it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I was supposed to come back and have a comeback fight. And I just was too emotionally shot. You know, like hurting myself in ways that just felt so awful and felt so guilty and confused of, could I have, like, you know, done something different? And I was, you know, just so confused and so disappointed that I wasn't able to come back because my mental state was just so broken. And so I was like 2 weeks out from a fight, and I went home to visit my mom, and she said, "Gina," well, I got kicked straight in the head by a woman that I've actually fought before and beat, but I was out there like sparring, got kicked right in the head and like completely got vertigo and concussed. And then I went home, and my mom was just like, "Gina, you're not looking yourself." So she took me to the doctor, and they said, "You've got a concussion and vertigo. And, you know, we don't suggest you go on with this fight." And so it was my comeback fight too. So then you got another failure there, right? You feeling, man, I failed on that one. And I spiraled into like this horrible depression. And then you just keep going. Yeah. Then you just kind of pick it up and just keep going.
How did you come to peace with your miscarriage?
Realizing that, you know, it was a confusing time because I couldn't tell if the doctor was telling me what I wanted to hear, like, or needed to hear, because the doctor knew my situation. So I was confused if he was telling me the truth or not. And I was supposedly 3 months along, and there was no heartbeat. And on top of that, there was about 3 softball-sized cysts, and I didn't realize this. But when you look down at my tummy, it was like sideways because I was so active and working, and I didn't understand. And he says, "We have to go in there, and also, I'm sorry to tell you, but there's no heartbeat. We have to suction this out." And I struggled with that because I felt, is that abortion? Is that, you know, and it tore me to pieces. And I actually woke up on the operating table right when it happened. Like, I felt like that motherly like thing instinct woke up, and it was like they were all laughing and like hanging out like normal surgery. But for me, I was so just heartbroken and didn't understand if that was an abortion or was it a miscarriage, and at what could I have just, you know, waited, or, you know. And the doctor told me, no, this is not an abortion. This is, you know, there's no heartbeat and we have to take those cysts out. And that was what was given to me. But it took me a long time to kind of just give that to God and realize, like, I still don't really, there was doubts in my head about it all. And so it hurt me and it hurt the person. It was just devastating. So I just kind of self-destructed from that for about 2.5 years.
Man.
Which is why I feel like when it comes to the abortion thing, I feel like people need to be educated, you know, on more so on miscarriages and more so on sex before marriage and, you know, relationships. And, you know, you give a piece of yourself away every time you have sex with someone. You know, you give parts away, and that's, to me, I understand it now. And of course, in my older age, how my mom was really trying to tell me, save that for that one person. It's special. And it truly is, you know. And so there's those kinds of things I wish I would have done better, you know. I was always that have a relationship type of person. I was never not like that, but that almost kind of makes it worse because there's more hearts broken.
Man, 2.5 years. What did you go through therapy? Did you?
I went and I did the acupuncture, which just kind of made me feel even worse because I was like, this is what it's come to. I was just like laying there with all these needles on me and tears just streaming down the sides of my face. And I was just like, this is what it's come to. But yeah, I ended up cutting myself pretty severely because I realized that you're hurting yourself. You're drinking. You're killing yourself right now because you feel the way you do. And so, well, this will be, I never told anybody that, but that's what that is. There's these.
Oh, shit, Gina.
Yeah. So I was always like, where did these scars come from? And it was from pain. It was just the realization of saying, you're hurting yourself. You might as well just do it. And so, strangely enough, that was the better feeling. But the worst feeling was my little sister grabbing my arm and looking at me, and I was like, all right, can't do that.
So if it's okay, I'd like to try to understand that. So you started to cut yourself because you were already destroying yourself. And so...
Well, when you realize you're doing these things to hurt yourself already, then why don't you just hurt yourself? That was the mentality. Like, I'm already hurting myself. Might as well feel it. And it actually was a lot more honest than drinking, or it was a lot more honest than, you know, anything else you were doing. That actually felt a lot better than anything. It actually, unfortunately, felt great.
Really?
Because it released the pain that was being felt inside. And I don't want that to be an encouragement for people to go out there and cut themselves, because it's an awful thing. But it was the most honest thing that I could do at that time, that, feeling such a failure and feeling that I needed a release.
Had you contemplated suicide?
No. I got a little too close over here, but it wasn't on purpose.
How long did that go on?
That was a short stint. It was about a month, maybe a month and a half. But it was my little sister's look to me that broke me when I said, well, as good as that feels, her look, who I've always tried to protect, was not something I was going to ever want to see on her face again.
Where would you do it?
I would just with like a razor and on my arm right there. Usually at an emotional time where I couldn't feel any more pain. So that's when it would happen. It's kind of unfortunate because I did it and this is not funny, but I did it in like little spaces and I was like, well, shoot, that looks a little too obvious. So then I tried to fill in the spaces.
Damn.
That's not funny, but it's kind of funny in a dark way.
How did your sister, how did she see it?
She knew.
She knew the whole time?
She knew the spaces in between that, so obviously that was it was too obvious. And so.
Did you want somebody to see it?
I didn't care. I didn't care about that. I was in a low manic place where it was just disappointment, depression. I've let everybody down. I can't figure out how to, pull myself up. So.
Well, I mean.
Sorry to drop all of these.
No, man, look, I think these are good discussions because so many people are dealing with stuff like this right now, whether you're going through a miscarriage or, it's no secret, what social media has done to everybody.
Yeah.
And you see kid suicide is up.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to ask you again,
I don't mind sharing it, and I don't mind wearing my heart on my sleeve with it because I do see, the mental health in children, and I see the suicides, and I see the drug addiction. I've personally lost, I don't know how many people in the last, now it's way up, 2 years. So I just want people to know that if you can hold on past this, just hold on past that. Okay, you had that moment. You had that failure. You had that fight publicly where you got smashed on TV and Cyborg kicked your ass. You got publicly fired by Disney. You got shamed and ruthlessly dragged through the mud. And you hurt yourself in most ways. But I, right now, am seeing such beauty in life and looking back through my life and understanding and seeing that, like, if people can just hold on past that, there is life. There's life on the other side of failure and embarrassment. And there's life on the other side of, like, other people's expectations of you, There's a beautiful life in the sunset every single day. And there's a beautiful life in the sunrise. There's a beautiful life in going to work and being a plumber and being an electrician and being able to be a construction worker and build. And there's pride and respect in that. You don't have to be on Instagram. You don't have to be where everybody can see you. You can have such pride and respect in building something. You don't need the world to tell you. You don't need to keep searching out in the world to tell you if you're important or not, because you are important. no matter what role you play or what job you have. It's important that people know that. This has been like some sort of, in society we think, oh, you must be important because you do that. No, it's not. We're all important. I respect construction workers, plumbers, and electricians more than I respect most, actors right now. I respect them way more, actually, at the moment than I respect most people in Hollywood.
Yeah.
They're out there building and working their asses off. And it's their time to shine, too. So good on them. And they go to work, and they don't get any praise for it. And they work with difficult people. And then they go home. They take pride and respect in their job. I mean, that's respectful. And, so Montana's teaching me a lot.
Good. I'm happy to hear that. So when your sister saw the scars, was that the turning point for you?
That was I can't do that anymore for her. That was that. When my little sister is, I was her rock when we were younger. So I feel like I protected her a lot when we were younger. And I feel like in our older life, she's protected me more in my adulthood. She's kept me safe. So is my mom. So, yeah, she keeps me grounded. She makes me realize that she's healthy. She turned out good. And that looking at her face, I'm not going to disappoint her. I'm going to be the older sister the best older sister and friend that I can be.
Earlier you had asked me, what order I think you're in the birth order. I mean, it's, I said the oldest. I mean, you have all the attributes as the oldest, probably because it seems to me you were kind of almost forced into that position.
Yeah. Are you the middle?
I'm the oldest.
Are you the oldest?
Mm-hmm.
I don't envy oldest children. I feel like they take on a certain level of pressure, and I find with oldest children, they either crumble or they thrive, but they take on pressure that's so unneeded. Because, I feel like it's just a hard place to be put, is being the oldest child. It's a hard place to start. And we keep that in mind, I think, with my nieces and everybody, being the oldest child is very difficult. I mean, and actually through history, right? Like older children are persecuted. They were killed. They were, there's something very interesting in the Bible about, the constant, persecution of older children. And yeah, so I feel sorry for my older sister and that she had to endure what she's done, but she's a free spirit, and she's got so many of us are praying for her, and she figures it out. She's figuring it out just like we all are. So
your sister sees the scars. That's your trigger to get better. That it's don't do this anymore, or you started turning things around?
Not turning things around, I would say that took some time, but because I was so upset. But my sister's look on my face was like, yeah, I can't do that anymore.
Well, was there something that brought you peace specifically, or time? Time?
Yeah, it was time. And then you get distracted, you get another job, and you keep going, and you realize, okay, and how am I going to explain? Then you're getting photographed and like, well, what happened to her arm? And nobody ever knew until now. That's what was going on.
Man.
But, I'm doing pretty okay now. I'm doing pretty good, actually. I'm good.
Good. Well, what was the next job?
Oh gosh, I don't know. That was after I felt such disappointment in not being able to come back and fight because I couldn't mentally, and the vertigo and just the failure of not being able to come back. It must have been just some of these smaller indie jobs that I did, that you learn a whole lot about the industry on.
What kind of stuff did you learn about the industry?
Well, you just learn that, producers will hire their girlfriends at the time. There's been so many times where I would take these women aside and say, you don't have to do this. How could you go to sleep with that man? How? Look at him. Look at you. You're actually a talented actress. Like, you do not have to go to this man's bed for a job. And they'd cry and they say, yeah, I do. And I had multiple conversations with multiple lost souls like that to try to get them to walk off. And they understood I was coming from a good place because I didn't need their job. I was already higher up on the list, and I, never did that. And I just wanted them to know, look, I'm an action actress. I would love to have your acting ability, like, go train, go do weapons, go get a skill. Don't make your skill sleeping with producers.
Man, I mean, are these people that, I'm not going to ask names, but are these people we would all know?
Well, most of them now have been caught, I think, through the Me Too movement, a lot of them. I was in some of those rooms where I was like, why am I in this man's house? And it was really just funny to me. And then I'd walk past a picture and he's like, say somebody famous, that everybody knows. And, I took this picture and she's completely naked. And I'm like, why is she naked? And I was so naive. I'm like, what? And then I was more like, broed him out, like, let's talk about fighting. I'm not putting that energy out there.
Yeah.
And there was only one time I thought I'd have to put my elbow down the center of an actor's face, but I didn't have to.
Can you describe that moment?
It's kind of embarrassing for him.
Well, that's not our problem.
He was an actor that I had just gotten off of a pretty high profile breakup. And I don't know how this happened, but, I was just really heartbroken from this breakup. It was all over the Hollywood news. And the actor that I was dating had already started dating someone else, and I was trying to promote a movie. Well, I'm very vulnerable at this stage, and we're drinking and smoking weed, and we're at this house party, and then all of a sudden I look up, and me and this actor are the only ones left in the house, in his guest house. And I thought it was his main house, and I didn't even know this man was married. And to be honest, I don't even know if he's married, but he's definitely gay. Because I saw him on set with this other actor, and I was like, oh, well, I'm in safe hands then, so I don't have to worry about being alone in this house with this gay guy that the Hollywood doesn't know is gay. But I was fine. And then he started coming on to me, and I was like stoned, and I was hot, I was drunk, and I was vulnerable and confused. And finally I just looked at him, just being very honest. I put my hands on my chest and I backed him up and I said, I thought you were gay. Just being completely honest. I thought you were gay. And he huffed and puffed and walked around his kitchen and was pretending to be upset. And I was like, no, I was on set. Remember, I was on set with you. And so I saw you. You are. Or at least you're bi now I guess you're bi, And he was like, oh, all right then, And then I was like, I am in a bad situation. And I was like, I'm okay, but I'm just gonna go to bed. Before all this happened, it was like, okay, I can stay in the guest bedroom. So I went to the guest bedroom, and then my door opens up. I'm like, oh hell, here we go. And so then I'm just under the covers, and I'm just, all right. I'm okay. I'm sobering up, things are getting like real. And I was like, you need to leave. And he said, well, now all my boys, because he had like bodyguards, now all my boys are going to think I'm gay. And I'm like, I'm sure they probably already know that you are. So like, so he kind of, he did something that was really like embarrassing for him. And then I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to put my elbow down his forehead and I will go there. And right when that was about to happen, he's like, all right. And he like got up and he left. And then I got up in the morning. I was like, how do I escape this compound?
Holy shit.
Like, how do I get out of here? This is the most miserable night. And I am like hungover. And that was so awkward. And then like he felt absolutely probably horrified because, and he made me sit there and talk to him for 2 hours in the kitchen. And he was horrified. And finally got my manager to come pick me, ex-manager to come pick me up. And I was like, you'll never believe what just happened. But that was probably the most uncomfortable I've ever been. And
how many people get sucked into this shit in Hollywood?
I'd say
it everyone?
I mean, so you're talking to a person who knows how to defend herself, is feeling very confident how to handle a situation. And all of a sudden the party just was gone and I was left there with the person, like just like that. The bodyguards scattered everybody and so my heart it goes out to women, that wouldn't be like me, a woman off a breakup, 100 pounds, 115 pounds, thinking that this person's gay, realizing that he's not, understand she's now in a dangerous situation. There is these certain, I'm fortunate because I'll go so hard. I've been in enough fights in my life to do that, to deal with, an actor. But I feel really awful that happens to a lot of women. But I also feel awful that a lot of women feel that they need to sacrifice themselves in order to, get that job. So I just don't work. Well, I don't work with those people anymore. That was the last time I got offered, hey, so-and-so, pretty big name, wants you to, be on this. And I'm like, absolutely not. Like, no, I'm not going to work with people that make other people feel this. I'm not going to work with people that make, in order to be a producer, they have to have girlfriends that sacrifice their bodies in order to be on set. I just won't work with people like that. So just Lone Rangering it.
Man, I mean, would you say that is the majority of Hollywood?
I'd say. There's men. I was working with a guy that wants to be a director and men are kind of funny about it though. They're like, all right, he was like, I was like, all right, well, this is like years, like decades ago, over a decade ago. And he really wanted to get his, project up and moving. And he was like in his, late 30s maybe. And he wanted this casting director, female, to do the casting because she had all the connections. And so he went and he slept with this woman for like a year trying to get his movie off the ground. And I was like, bro, what are you doing? Like, how? On top of what? Like, and what, this is insanity. But, there must have been perks for him because he gets to stay somewhere free. And at the same time, she just kept on leading him on and kept on leading him on. There's many stories of men doing this, like taking the producer, the female to producer, the female casting directors. And they're like, many stories of that. Men are a little bit more funny about it though, because they're just like, Gotta do what you gotta do. I'm taking one for the team. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I don't even know how that's possible. Drugs? Like Viagra? Something.
Damn. Well, let's
Sorry. I don't know. Hope everybody doesn't mind these conversations.
wow. Well, let's take a quick break and then we'll start diving into Disney.
Okay.
Join me and my special guest for the next behind-the-scenes experience exclusively available on Vigilance Elite Patreon. The behind-the-scenes footage is raw and uncut. This is as close to the set as you can possibly get. You can expect anything from off-topic conversations, studio tours, the final moments before the interview starts, and everything in between. The behind-the-scenes content is constantly evolving and will continue to bring you more as we grow. You can gain access for just $15 a month exclusively at Vigilance Elite Patreon. I know everybody out there has to be just as frustrated as I am when it comes to the BS and the rhetoric that the mainstream media continuously tries to force feed us. And I also know how frustrating it can be to try to find some type of a reliable news source. It's getting really hard to find the truth and what's going on in the country and in the world. And so one thing we've done here at Shawn Ryan Show is we are developing our newsletter. And the first contributor to the newsletter that we have is a woman, former CIA targeter. Some of you may know her as Sarah Adams, call sign Superbad. She's made 2 different appearances here on the Shawn Ryan Show. And some of the stuff that she has uncovered and broke on this show is just absolutely mind-blowing. And so I've asked her if she would contribute to the newsletter and give us a weekly intelligence brief. So it's going to be all things terrorists, how terrorists are coming up through the southern border, how they're entering the country, how they're traveling, what these different terrorist organizations throughout the world are up to. And here's the best part, the newsletter is actually free. We're not going to spam you. It's about 1 newsletter a week, maybe 2 if we release 2 shows. The only other thing that's going to be in there besides the intel brief is if we have a new product or something like that. But, like I said, it's a free CIA intelligence brief. Sign up. Links in the description or in the comments. We'll see you in the newsletter. All right, Gina, we're back from the break. And we're getting ready to dive into Disney. But before we do that, we just had a conversation off camera about friends that we had lost. My best friend, Gabe, and I told you that story. And so, like I kind of mentioned at the beginning, a lot of people in the world are going through something. And especially on this channel, it's the audience is very, very veteran heavy, and especially global war on terrorism vets, and just about everybody has experienced loss. And so you had mentioned earlier in the show that you'd lost a lot of friends to addiction. I've lost more friends than I can count to addiction and suicide. I mean, everybody knows about the epidemic that's going on in the veteran community and first responders, and seems to be just spreading into everything. So what I want to ask you is, how do you deal with loss?
How I have dealt with loss, I think, throughout my life has been different. And I think when you're younger, you deal with it all wrong. You find every wrong way possible to hurt yourself. I think there's different ways people deal with it. They deal with it by hurting others, or they deal with it by hurting themselves. And so I feel like the sensitive souls out there who don't want to hurt others end up hurting themselves. And so they hurt themselves through addiction. They hurt themselves through cutting themselves. They hurt themselves through just total and utter self-destruction. And through that, they're trying not to hurt other people. But through the loved ones that care about them, they end up just, destroying everybody else around them, because nobody can stop self-destruction except for the self, or divine intervention. So, I I think having a healthy outlet, such as like mixed martial arts, I encourage that to everyone, because that's what helped me. Or finding, like that certain physical activity and that routine every single day that you stick to, that is your checklist. For instance, I almost want to write a book that, it's hard for some people just to get out of bed for weeks at a time. They can't get out of bed. And I've been there, not being able to get myself out of bed. And then it starts with getting yourself, like when I lost my best friend in 2021, I think it was, or 2022. I couldn't get out of bed. I just sunk into this manic depression. And it took me about 3 weeks till I was able to answer a phone call, or, like I just started to try to do those little regular things where you take the shower, you shave your legs, you take a walk, you try to like get your body moving. Because once you get your body moving and you start looking at the world and you start to do regular things like grocery shop again, and then you hit a place where you can't get out of bed again, so it's like you just handle it differently. People like you with, a wife and kid have to maybe put on a different face than I've had to put on, which is hard, because I've gotten to hide my depression or my low points. But when you have a family and when you're the head of your household, that's just got to be so brutal to try to put on that brave face for your children and for your wife and keep going. But also, it could be maybe a nice distraction as well. Because being in your head and alone in depression, I think, is where we find a lot of kids a lot of people they're able to disappear. And it might be the worst thing that they can do to themselves, because they'll just sink further and further into their manic depression. So, I had somebody call me recently and say, they were in a bad place. And I said, all right, well, just pick out the things that you're doing to hurt yourself, drugs, alcohol, women, sex. Like, what is the thing that you're using to hurt yourself? And he told me, and I said, do me a favor and let that go. Give yourself a time frame to heal, because the world's going to need you. And they need you to be healthy. We need more men and more women to be healthier than ever. And you're powerful and you're beautiful, and I need you to be healthy. So he said, okay. And he stopped drinking and doing whatever he was doing for about 8 weeks. And I saw him not too long ago, and and he was happy, and he was clean, and he was not hurting himself, and excited about the future. So that would be the one thing, is drop what you're using to hurt yourself, and then focus on control the controllables, right? I can control getting up and take a shower. I can control what I'm going to put in my body today. I can control going for a walk. I can control calling my mom, because I know that's a responsible thing to do. I need to do. I can control the controllables and let all the other chaos go. And you're not... I remember looking in the mountains in Montana and thinking, I got to get myself together. I'm not going to change the world by being an absolute wreck. So I remember thinking, like, I've been through a lot in the last couple of years. And I just remember thinking, I'm looking in the mountains and I'm like, I need to watch sunsets. I need to live. And I need to stop obsessing about things that I cannot control. And also, my utmost thing is Jesus Christ. My utmost thing is turning to God. If I don't wake up and I don't read that my Bible in the morning, my whole day's a wreck. I'm hitting my head on cabinets. I'm almost like getting car crashes. Like I'm literally just an absolute mess. And that's the one thing that like I know if I don't start off my day like that, then I'm, I feel like the whole day is not set off right. So that's personally what I do.
Have you ever thought about how that person that you're mourning would want you to live in those moments?
In the moments of
Grief?
he would be so upset with me if he saw me crying. He passed 2 days ago was his I guess his death anniversary, and he would just he didn't want anybody to cry for him ever, because he went through a lot too in his life. And don't cry for me. Don't you start, But a really beautiful thing happened. The last anniversary of his death, I had a beautiful moment where I had this incredible dream where we got to hang out and I got to see him. And we were hanging out in my dream, and it was just like wonderful. So, I think he's happy now because I believe he's in heaven. I believe he loved Jesus, and I believe he had servant tattooed across his back because he said that's the best thing you could possibly be in life is a servant. He's incredibly special. So he's in a good place. And after he died, I just looked up. I was in Arizona. I just looked up and I could just hear him free of his body and just could hear his big, heavy laughter all over the sky. And I just felt like he's free now, We're the ones that are trapped here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he would want me to, I just think he'd be laughing at how much trouble I'm causing down here. He wouldn't be surprised, but he'd be laughing with me.
What do you make of that dream?
I think it's God's blessing. It's I have had dreams since I was young that are extremely vivid and very, I remember I did an essay in college about a dream of mine. And she wrote on the essay, she's like, I hope you're not some sort of, I don't know, psychic or prophet or something like that. She wrote that on my paper and I got an A+. I was like, no, I think sometimes God just gives you little glimpses into things that, help sometimes or enlighten you, or, sometimes dreams are just dreams. That's all they are. They're just dreams. And, sometimes I think Satan can use dreams as negatively as he can too as well. So you have to not probably put too much weight in it and just let them be what they are and enjoy the good ones, because the bad ones are there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they're always with us.
Yeah.
I just had a crazy experience. And it kind of goes back to, do you want to hear this?
Yes, please.
So that hockey jersey down there that you just saw.
Yeah.
That's my best friend's hockey jersey. And it's the first thing, for everybody listening, it's the first thing you see when you walk in the studio. And I told you that jersey, so Gabe died of a heroin overdose, and they found him. So he was trying to get this hockey team, a Wounded Warriors hockey team sponsored by the NHL, which would have been the first Wounded Warrior hockey team sponsored by an NHL team. And he was telling me this while he was struggling with his addiction, which anybody that has seen somebody struggling especially from an opiate addiction, it's a rough sight.
Yeah.
And he was telling me how he was just walking into the Panthers arena and just gonna make this happen. I'm like, okay, Gabe. I don't think that's gonna happen, but wish you the best of luck. Well, I'll be damned. He fucking got it. He got it. And the Panthers signed off on it. And they went to his house to tell him that they'd signed off on it. And he had died in his condo. That's how he was found, was getting the news that Panthers were going to sponsor his team. Well, I got one of the first jerseys that they ever made and had it framed. And you saw it. It's a huge frame. It's heavy, probably weighs 50 pounds. And we had just done this thing in Vienna, which, with the commander Masood, the leader of the the Afghan resistance, and that got me super paranoid about our government. And
I bet.
And this team has got this in front of Congress, and it's looking like we're going to probably shut down not just us, but all the people that have been involved with this lead up. It looks like we're going to shut down over $1 billion of funding a year to the fucking Taliban. The government is aiding the Taliban now. And so we brought attention to that. Anyways.
Oh my gosh, that's huge. And that's coming out right now.
It's right now.
Oh.
And as we're having this, it's premiering on our channel.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And Tim Burchett.
Thank you.
Thank you. Somebody's got to do it. Tim Burchett brought it to Congress and brought up the fact that, hey, we're sending $87 million a week to the fucking Taliban. And he wrote a bill up. It passed the House. Now it's going to the Senate. So we're making waves and we're pissing a lot of people off. And we're shutting funding down to one of the biggest terrorist organizations in the world.
Wow.
So that brings a certain amount of fear. And
when you say fear, are you talking about fear from what you just saw the other night with Trump?
I don't think it's any secret how corrupt our government is. And all the Boeing whistleblowers have been assassinated. Mm-hmm. They tried to assassinate Kavanaugh, the Epstein judge they tried to assassinate. Yeah. It's not like I'm fucking just a crazy, cuckoo, paranoid veteran,
It's the fact that nobody's talking about it.
So
nobody's talking about the assassinations that are actually taking place. That we always notice them, that they happen in Russia and they happen in all these other places, and we always like to point the finger and like, wow, that's so crazy that's happening here, and it's happening there, it's happening here.
Mm-hmm. All the time.
And that the other day with Trump's almost assassination, what just, I think, ripped the Band-Aid off and let everybody know the desperation of where we're at is that, oh no, they will try to kill him.
Yeah.
And they will try to, if they kill him, they could try to kill you, and they could try to kill anyone that opposes them.
It just keeps happening. Wasn't it Obama's chef mysteriously drowned, fell off his paddleboard and mysteriously drowned in a pond?
Yeah.
And that's happened to, I don't want to say any names.
Apparently a lot of chefs.
Yeah, there's a lot of chefs that have mysteriously drowned and well-to-do politicians.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyways, so we get home from this trip and I'm really paranoid. I'm like, fuck. Like, am I overstepping here? I don't care. This is what the country needs. So I get home on a Thursday. I come in to the studio on Friday, which is June 28th, and the anniversary of Red Wings, which I had told you offline, Gabe was a big part of that. Mm-hmm. Come in, and that big picture frame is on the floor. And that frame has been there for hanging there for 3 years. And I'm like asking some of the people that work here, which almost all of them were with me in Vienna, except my assistant. And I'm like, what happened? Did you see this thing? Did you take this off the wall? Because it wasn't broken. There's no glass broken. The frame's in perfect. I mean, you saw it. It's in perfect condition. There was a bug light under it. It knocked the bug light off. And I'm like, fuck. Like, is Gabe trying to warn me something? You know, is he trying to tell me something? And I was the last one out of the studio, last one out of the building. And I'm just kind of pacing in the parking lot by my car, just like talking to Gabe. Like, what are you trying to tell me, man? What should I be looking out for? Like, you got my attention. That frame has been there for 3 years. I go home, and I'm trying not to get emotional, but I'm telling my wife about what happened. And she goes, Shawn, the Panthers just won the fucking Stanley Cup. And I found the frame on June 28th, which is the anniversary of Red Wings, which is another huge part of Gabe's past. And like, in that moment, I was just overwhelmed with emotion and positive emotion.
Yeah.
And I just started laughing, and I was like, I can fucking hear him up there right now going, no, you dumb shit. I'm not trying to warn you about anything. The Panthers just won the fucking Stanley Cup, and it's the anniversary of June 28th. But, you know, like, there's just too many coincidences, and I don't really believe in coincidences anymore anyways.
No, I don't believe in luck, and I don't believe in coincidences.
But it's proof. To me, that is a little dose of proof that there is life after death and that our people are still watching over us. Mm-hmm. And I've always felt that with Gabe. And, you know, it's just, and it's really weird. Like, you were just kind of talking about the Bible, and we do a very small Bible study at my house every week. Actually, it's tonight.
Oh, nice.
Every Tuesday. Yeah, we do it. And a couple weeks ago, there was a gentleman in there, close friend of ours, and he was talking, we were talking about life after death and your soul kind of carrying on, and what would it be like? And he said, well, maybe it doesn't carry on, because what were you doing before you were born? And that, like, even as a kid, that's one of the only things that really scared the shit out of me, is what if you die and that's just, it's lights out. And I've thought about that. Like, that conversation bothered me, because I was like, fuck, I don't know what the hell. Nobody has any memories of when before they were born. So maybe there was nothing. But then something like that happens. And
I think an older lady told me it's heaven's wink. It's heaven's wink, just to let you know. And I think that one thing that I've learned and grew up with, and I think is so many people get so fascinated with the life after death that they go searching for it and they try to contact it, and they can, you know, they want to access it. Well, I do believe in
mediumship.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, like, or just, you know, just trying to. There's doors you open in life, in my belief system, and you have to be careful which doors you open. And so the door I open into what happens life after death, I go through Jesus on that. He's, to me, the one that gave me life and the opportunity to go into heaven. And that is who I'll communicate until I get to heaven and figure it out. And he's the only one I'll go to. Of course, like, you know, I think about Anthony, and I think about his bellowing laugh, and I think about my papa, And I've had really strange experiences spiritually of like, after my grandfather died, I had 2 months of just spiritual warfare that was happening. And I could hear voices, and I can hear, like walking, and it was just like this evil presence was like around me. And I actually started watching, I was reading my Bible, and I was so sensitive at that time, I couldn't watch regular television. And so I started watching The Chosen, which my mom was like, you should watch The Chosen. I'm like, I'm not watching The Chosen, okay? And then I started watching The Chosen, and my heart started calming down. Whatever that evil presence was that was just taunting and haunting me through my dreams, where that thing where something sits on your chest and you can't breathe, and you wake up and you're like, and you just, it was just happening more aggressively than it ever had happened, because I got rid of all that spiritual kind of like stuff a long time ago, and it came back. And do I think that was like, and had anything to do with my grandfather and where his soul is? No, I don't think it has anything to do with it. But I believe in my grieving process, I had opened a door somewhere, which I know where. And I let in a darkness that taunted me for 2 months. And I needed to, I just needed to get back to talking to Jesus and saying, okay, walk me through how to get this door closed,
Can I ask what that door was?
It was personal. It was,
okay.
Yeah, it was really personal. But I felt like I feel like I have an idea of what it was. Yeah. So I feel like you do open doors in life, and things happen due to those open doors. And if you really want that door to close, if you want that torment to stop, in my belief, it's through Jesus. And it's not going to be through trying to contact the dead, or trying to contact spirits, or selling your soul to Satan. Because you think, a lot of people out there, there's this belief system that, okay, if I just already get on this side, the Satan's team, then I'm not going to be tormented because I'm on your team, Satan, so you're not going to hurt me. I'm on your team. And those end up being the most tormented people.
Mm-hmm.
They think, hey, why would you do this to me? Because he hates you. He wants you to just completely destroy us. He hates humanity. He hates what God's creation is. It's why he destroys everything that's beautiful. And, it's awful, like what we consider beauty and what really is truly beautiful. It's awful how we're all trying to stay so young and destroying ourselves when you sit next to your grandmother and you think, my gosh, how beautiful are you? Or when somebody's aged beautifully and they allowed themselves to just kind of naturally do it. And I'm, I'm trying to like learn in my Montana life. I try to like learn, because I grew up in Las Vegas, and I grew up in, Los Angeles, and all of this was just a culture to me, like breast implants, obviously, 22 years old. Okay, let's do those, like this was a culture. But Satan loves to take beautiful natural bodies and say, no, that's not the way it's supposed to be. That's not what you're supposed to be. This is what you're supposed to be over here. And it's so awful and so ugly that is the biggest lie.
Was your faith always as strong, Debbie? Did you grow up?
No,
like
actually,
this?
It's just getting stronger by the sentence. I got really close to God when I was going through my cancellation, because I knew that internally I couldn't not speak. I didn't have children, and I didn't want it to get to the place where there would be forced vaccinations and forced all the things that did happen. I didn't want to get to the point where people who had families were losing their jobs and, couldn't afford to, keep their kids. And so me and Kevin didn't have kids. So I thought, and Kevin's right on board with me, like his family's very natural. I don't think anti-vax is necessarily a bad word. They, they grew up, very just almost like hippies, and they're all really healthy. And so he already had that kind of naturally, like in his family makeup. And it's not to say, like, I don't mind. I love modern medicine. I mean, I think it does some incredible things. Like, my dad has 2 knee surgeries and can now ski and travel and ski and enjoy life, and, heart, like heart transplants that were like heart, like things that ways that God has allowed us to really like explore how to help each other. So I think modern medicine and modern, stuff is wonderful. But I also think that at the same time, what has Satan done? He's come and he's taken that and he's made his evil version of forcing things on people, such as vaccines and making so many drugs okay to take as children, put them on ADHD because they don't want to sit at a desk for 8 hours.
Yeah.
When they should be outside learning about life or learning how to change a tire or learning how to do taxes. And, it's just, I don't know. Yeah. Satan has a knack for, even with climate change, it does say in Revelation, that these things will transpire. Like there's going to be, death, destruction. There's going to be famine. The world's going to shake. There's going to be earthquakes. There's going to be fires. So what does Satan go and take that? He takes that because he knows it's coming, and he turns it into his own. Hey, men, humans, let you guys go ahead and play God and pretend like you guys can control this, and you play God with climate change. And my belief isn't that we shouldn't pick up after. We should, like we should keep our spaces clean. And we should clean up. And if there's a way to recycle and make something new and not waste, 100%. Mm-hmm. But you are not going to play God. And that's what Satan's made these globalists believe, that they can play God and that they are their own gods. And it's just a horrible, ugly thing that they're using and that they will use until the end.
Yeah. When you talk about people that are, where am I going with this? I'm going, I want to know about satanic rituals and that side of the fence in Hollywood, because we hear all about it. And you're kind of just speaking on the fact that people will go that road because they think they're going to befriend him or something. I mean, how relevant is that in your experience within Hollywood?
Well, just from watching and being spiritually aware, I guess, so many of these actors that do so well, it's like, well, I am my own God. And that is, they have everything together, they have the wife, they have the kids, they don't drink alcohol, they are in shape and all of this, but they believe they are their own God. And
do they say that? Do they articulate it?
A lot of people say that they are their own God. And it's a scary thing because I feel like that's almost a harder wall to break down than maybe drugs or alcohol or sex or something that's more obvious. Is that when you believe that you are your own God, that doesn't leave room for the real God. And have I been always the spiritual? I mean, no. I found out through the hardships of the entire industry turning against me and being dropped on my head pretty damn hard that I just read a scripture in Psalms. That's where I started. Every morning I'd read a chapter in Psalms. And I also read this book called Silver Refined. And the book was basically saying it's not going to be easy, but you'll get through it and it'll be worth it. And you'll be refined. And so who I was in 2019 was a woman who could have gone to live in New York in a condo and not gone and dedicated myself to this relationship, and could have ended up, experimenting more with whatever, everything. I could have ended up anywhere at 2019. I was, just kind of floating through life, and very excited about my career. And then it took 2020 and 2021 for all of these people, this Disney and Lucasfilm, to make me really think about, oh, geez, where is my line? Like, that's not what I want to say, and that's not what I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But I feel like you're pushing your ideologies on me, and you're backing me into corners that I had to draw a line. And they kept crossing it. And that's the legal part. Like, you can believe what you believe. And I've lived in Vegas and Los Angeles, like my entire life. I've had every single one of these. We snuck into strip clubs when we were 17 years old, like it's not been like that sheltered. And I found myself drawing my line. And the more I drew my line and held on to God, the more I realized, okay, all right, I do not worship your business. And I have this in an email, which is why I don't mind if my emails come out. I said, I do not worship your business. And I have done plenty wrong in my life that I will need to account for and I will need to apologize for. But at this moment, I haven't done anything wrong. And I am not going to put out one of these fake apologies that you have everybody else put out, that mean nothing, that degrade them, that take away from their words. They're basically using every celebrity who apologized, they took their voice away to where the next time they speak, it doesn't mean anything because it's just a copied, pasted, regular apology. And I was not going to do that. So I wrote out my own long, big statement. I was like, you want me to make a statement? I'll make a statement. And it wasn't offensive. It was I understand. I grew up a tomboy. I understand that things are different and people are going through things. And it's a very well-written thing. It's just, I don't worship your business. And my God is bigger than Disney. So this is where I'm at. And so hopefully those emails get printed or read one day and help shed some light on what was going on. But
can you talk about your experience with Disney and kind of what happened there?
Yeah, it was just, if I would have been saying and doing the things that I did then now, I would be fine. It was because I was early and I kind of could see where all of this was going. I knew from having two grandfathers have their own business and started from scratch that we're going to shut those people down. What is essential and what is not? When you're like, Walmart's more essential than this, Italian restaurant that's just getting off its feet and has to feed their family. Like what? Or a tiny family-owned grocery store or a convenience store. That Walmart's more important. And so nothing was making sense, and I could see where this was going. And it was the largest, most fraudulent wealth transfer in, basic, I think, history, is that they are destroying through their mandates the middle class and also the people that will do as they say and be a part of our group or not. And, they're trying to make that divide and did so successfully.
Yeah.
So I was speaking about, mandating vaccines before they even mandated it. I was speaking about my grandfather went to the hospital and he had dementia, and they wouldn't let anybody go in with him, and he couldn't get a catheter because he had some surgical stuff going on. He can't explain that to the nurse, and his records aren't all there, and things got so messed up in the hospitals. Hospitals were being paid for every vaccinated person they got on a ventilator. Like, it was just so corrupt. And so I just wasn't going to stay quiet. People were watching their loved ones die over FaceTime. That wasn't okay.
Yeah.
We weren't completely ignoring the vaccine injured and the vaccine deaths and putting up on the news all of the deaths and fear-mongering people into anxiety, I wonder how many people died of anxiety-induced fear. You know what I mean? And the mental health and the drugs and the alcohol, and taking a driver who needed that kind of, some people need that regulated, like, day. This is what I do every day in order to stay sane. And you took that away from them and put them at home with screaming kids and wife and all of this other stuff. And it's like suicides went up, and it's like, I knew that was going to happen, and I wasn't going to stay quiet about it. And then all I did was beep, bop, boop a couple people, and all of a sudden meltdown happened. And it really wasn't I figured, what is the least offensive thing that you could possibly put in your bio on Twitter?
So they were trying to get you to do the pronouns, right?
Right. Like, put this, say trans lives matter, put your pronouns in your bio, blah, blah, blah. And I was like,
how do they approach you with that?
Well, the mob online was doing it. And obviously, a lot of the Disney and Lucasfilm people were, going along with it. And there's a lot of people Lucasfilm pays too, as well, to put pressure on. So it was just a whole big deal. And I gotta say,
so it was online pressure?
It was online. It was through websites, podcasters. It was through people that Lucasfilm paid. It was through employees of theirs. It was through Disney. It was through just random bots. They had bot farms. And it was just basically online from that. And here you have, like, PR people that have worked for Disney, and they know smear campaigns when they see them, right? They worked for, for them for 30 years. And you're going to tell me you can't see a smear campaign? You can't see attacks that are actually, like, that's happening to me. And they defend other actors, but I wasn't a part of their, I wasn't going along with their narrative, so they never defended me. They defended so many other actors and actresses. Oh yeah, we defend this person from bullying. And I got it way worse than anyone in the Star Wars universe. And that is saying quite a lot. That's saying a lot.
How were they coming at you?
Just like by the thousands, like death threats and just online, oh my word. I don't think most of us have seen it in anything like that. I got it so hard. And there's just a crazy moment in life that I apparently needed to see and understand that that's what happens. Because online, it's really interesting. In the court session, we're waiting for the judge to, she's either going to allow the dismissal of that Disney has requested to dismiss my case. So, okay, this life doesn't matter. We messed up. This life doesn't matter. Let's just kind of like push her off to the side. And they're trying to pretend like it's not a big deal. When it is, their stocks plummeted from the day that they let me go. And they know it's a big deal, but they're trying to pretend like it's not. But so we're waiting for the judge to either allow that dismissal or to allow us to go into discovery. And discovery I'm completely fine with. I've already sent all of my interactions over to my lawyers, and they've looked through it, in depth. And so now we get to go into who we get to if we get to, continue on, which we are actively moving on. So we get to go into discovery and find out what was going on behind their scenes.
So just to fill in a couple of blanks here, for those that don't know, I'm sure most everybody does, but there was a series of tweets that came out from you, and without going through all of them, we'll just put them up on screen. But it sounded like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed like the major one was when you did change your pronouns or add your pronouns as beep bop boop.
Which to me
is really offensive.
So to me, in my head, I really study, I look at I guess I study social behavior. And I was like, you got all these people who don't even have their pronouns up telling me about pronouns. And they have Trash Panda and they have all this weird kind of like stuff in their pronouns. And so I was like, oh, okay, so you guys want me to put something in my bio. All right. Yeah, I'm going to put something in my bio. And they, of course, were wanting a he, her, they, them, him. Of course, that's what they wanted. And I just put beep, bop, boop. And it wasn't, to me, that wasn't just, I was like, I'm just proving to you, you can put anything you want in your bio. Simply put, nothing to do with your pronouns, nothing to do with the transgender community, nothing. Just, you can put whatever you want. And that just had the biggest meltdown. And you should have seen it in court the other day. I just couldn't believe it. He was like, Your Honor, Your Honor, she was making fun of the transgender community and put beep, bop, boop in her bio. And I was like, that is the most ridiculous. Can you hear yourself, sir? Like, beep, bop, boop. You tried Harvey Weinstein, you defended him, and you're talking about beep, bop, boop right now? Are you kidding me? It's just wild. And I'm just sitting there like, and I think the judge wasn't, virtue signaling behind a computer, right? Looks a lot different than virtue signaling behind, in front of a judge. And it looks absolutely ridiculous.
How was the judge?
She was wonderful, actually. She was very smart. She knew the cases. It actually gave me, I was really proud to see a strong female up there, really kind of looking down, assessing the situation, knowing what's going on. And she's a Democrat. Biden appointed a Democrat in 2022, but she was looking down and she had control of the room. And I liked that because there was no virtue signaling, it's going to be an honest courtroom. It felt like, and I respected that.
Man, that's nice to hear.
Yeah.
You don't hear very many people saying that's an honest courtroom anymore.
I hope it is, Yeah, I really feel like, I brought my Bible with me. I had that in my purse. And I just want it to be, I don't know about what happens in the future. I want this to change things in a positive way so that I can put a period on this end of my chapter, move on with whatever is in my future, which I love telling stories, and I think that's going to be a big part of it. And I want to move on with my life because of the embarrassment and the shame that I was carrying around for the last 4 years was not mine to carry, and it wasn't right. And nobody else, if it had been any other actress that went through this or actor, I don't think that they would have worshipped this business, and I don't. And they would have probably committed suicide from the amount of pressure and abuse that I went through. So,
Damn.
So hopefully this can right some wrongs, which we need.
Yeah.
We need a lot of good people, no matter if you're Democrat, a Republican, independent, no matter if you're from the United States, coming into the United States, no matter if you're from wherever you are in the world, we need honest, good people to stand up, be courageous, We need support. We need mercy, and we need justice, or else we're just going to allow this corruption to take hold. And, this next election, I'd say, is very important. And so I'm all about not giving up. And I think more of us are coming together and realizing it's got to be all of us together. You got to put some of your differences aside and come together and save this country, because when this country's a disaster, the rest of the world ends up completely losing their shit.
Yeah, we're saying that right now.
Yeah.
How did you know you were fired?
They told somebody said on, they leaked it. So what they do is they leak it to news outlets. So somebody from Disney, Lucasfilm, leaked it to Variety, and said that we are no longer, Gina's no longer employed with Lucasfilm and have no intentions to be. Nevertheless, we feel like she's been denigrating people off of their cultural and religious beliefs, which was absolutely insane, because what I was calling for was like any history Instagram could post the post that I put, and it would be accurate and it'd be true. It was just calling to not demonize neighbors. It just so happened that it was referring to the Holocaust. Like, people didn't just wake up Nazis. They massaged people's, like, they massage people into kind of like making it okay to demonize your neighbor. And so a neighbor you could have been having dinner with, say, 10 years earlier, oh yeah, come on over and, let's share dinner. Now you're watching that same neighbor get hauled off to a concentration camp, and all of their furniture is getting displayed and, ruined. And, they're running through houses looking for, Jewish people. And so we didn't just jump to that. It was a slower progression of neighbor hating neighbor, and the propaganda machine pumping that. And what I was saying through my tweet, I didn't call anybody a Nazi. I didn't refer to anybody as Hitler, like the left has been doing for about ever now. I just simply said, it didn't start off here. And it wasn't even my words. It was just a little clip that I put up on, like, they used to have a fleet section, which is like a story section on Twitter. It was just kind of something I put up that I thought everybody could, relate to. And what it got to was all of the Hollywood media took it, including Disney and Lucasfilm, said, well, she's comparing Republicans to Jewish people in the Holocaust, and she's done it, she's trivializing it, and she's anti-Semitic. And I'm like, how is calling for, like, she's denying the Holocaust? I'm like, that's not at all how I read that.
Can I read it?
Of course.
Jews were beaten in the streets, not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors, even by children, her post stated. Because history is edited, most people today don't realize that to get to that point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. That's what the post said.
Yeah. And it also says, how is that any different than hating somebody off of their political beliefs? And I think that's where they really had a problem with me saying that. But were Nazis not politicians? Was that not political? And so if you just took that first sentence, oh, she's a Holocaust denier. When you say the whole thing together, you're saying Nazis got to, there's no denying Nazis were Nazis. They got to that place through neighbors hating neighbors. And basically we should really be cautious of that now. And we should be. And look what's happened. I wasn't wrong. I wasn't wrong. about warning about the division. And I thought it was something genuinely that we could all say, hey, let's not repeat history. Let's learn from it and let's come together, you know? Let's come together and appreciate we have our differences and get our country back on track. Because when you have a healthy country, a healthy working country, then you've got less addiction, you've got less broken homes, you know, like we need to get back to a healthier country, because right now it's just, how many people have I lost in the last, from drug overdoses to all sorts of things. And it's, I have nieces. I have 4 darling nieces. And I'd at least like to buy them another 25 years or 30 if I can, before they have to start defending this like we're having to defend it now, you know?
Yeah. You're a critical thinker. There aren't very many of those left.
I think there's more. There's beginning to be more.
There's a lot of, I mean, I think that's why we're at where we're at. I think that's...
Well, I think...
They stole critical thinking from people somehow. And...
They don't want people to be... They threaten people's comfort. And that's why I get so many actors and actresses come up to me and, oh, I'm with you, I'm with you. It's like, I had one actress sit up on stage with me at one of these fan expos. All of a sudden it became kind of cool to be canceled for, you know, it's almost kind of cool to be canceled nowadays. And she said, she's like, well, I'm just a phone call away from being canceled. And I'm like, you would never go through what I went through the last 4 years. You would never in your life, you would never go through that. And, but I learned about life, and I'm still learning about life with a clear lens. And I think I would prefer that more than anything, than to walk around in ignorance and be defending things that I didn't know I was defending and not thinking about, and just trying to be part of a group just to be a part of a group, you know? So I like being in the position I am. I don't like what I had to do to get this knowledge, but I love the lens that I'm looking through now. And I still have so much to learn that I'm excited about. So many books and so many things that I'm like, I feel like it's like a whole new world to me, because I'm seeing it like for what it is now. Yeah. I'm just like a baby in it too, because I mean, I look at you and I can only imagine the things that you've seen. And that's fascinating to me, because I don't know that at all. So it's almost just like, it's just like being born again. Like, all right, this is what the world has been. I'm like a baby learning all over again.
Man. And when you got canceled and fired, everybody left you, correct? The talent agency?
Yeah.
Who was the talent agency?
It was UTA, United Talent Artist. Then it was my very Democrat lawyer, who I think at some point was planning on running for some sort of office, and would constantly be sending out emails about come to my house for this fundraiser for this Democrat. You never see that in Hollywood. Come to this Republican, you know. Yeah. And then the only person that stood with me was Scott Karp, my manager at the time. But we recently, in the last, since last October, parted ways, but in a very loving, caring way. That was that I think he needed to move on, because he's been through the thick of it with me for so long, and I needed a refresh. And it was really kind of hard, you know, but good. It's not, we both care about each other like brother and sister. And I think that'll continue on. I just need time to rebuild. And I've got this new manager who is he's expecting his first baby, and he wasn't even a producer. Or he wasn't even a manager, he was a producer. And I was like, I've got this lawsuit coming out and all this attention's going to be on me for a hot 2 weeks, right? And I was like, it's going to be hard. And we were like thinking about doing this project together. And he's like, well, Gina, if you need my help, he's this English man named Rob Weston, absolute gem of a man. And we're both at these points in our careers where we really want to dive in and tell some cool stories where we're in charge of it, executive producing. And so I have a partner now that will sit down in the writer's room, and we'll go from 9 a.m. to 6, and we'll enter this world that we're creating in the script. And like all these people are walking around us, and Beverly Hills, like this place where people go to do this, I guess. And me, him, and this incredible writer are just sitting there, and we're just developing this cool world that we're going to be able to create. And I don't even hesitate. I know that it's going to come. I know that it's going to happen. People understand what happened to me. It's not a secret anymore that I was, railroaded. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty fascinating. I don't even think Disney's lawyers believe themselves. Well, I know they don't. They just kind of like, at one point I saw the lady in her head in her hands. she's like, oh gosh, this is like, and I felt, almost feel bad for him. Like, you're like, you don't even believe what you're saying. You have such bigger problems than beep, bop, boop. Okay.
Man.
And you can just imagine what the judge is sitting there thinking. She's probably like, and she didn't buy it. She wasn't buying it. So I don't think, hopefully prayers up that we get to move forward and close, however it ends up closing, move past it. I'm moving past it regardless. And I'm going to get into getting this one movie. We got a movie and we've got a series on the dock. So they're both fun, interesting. And I've been through everything from like the worst possible movies, like the worst movies ever, to the best, productions ever. I've seen it all, and I'm so excited.
Good for you.
Yeah.
So with this, I want to get back to the lawsuit for just a little bit. And so it sounds like you kind of threw your hands up there for a little bit and put it in God's hands. And then what happened?
So, well, I was holding on to, after I got fired, we went to Arizona, and it was basically out in the middle of nowhere where we squatted on my mom's property for about a year and a half because we didn't have anywhere to live. Couldn't live out of the RV the entire time. Well, we could have. It's nice, but squatted in her guest house in Arizona, and just kind of like, I did a lot of fan expos, which I felt like I was nervous about doing because I was like, oh gosh, this is where artists' careers go to die, as a fan expo. And so I was really just like, but this is how I'm going to make money. And so I started doing fan expos, and my first one just like in Orlando just like blew my mind. Like so much love. And we tripled our numbers. And so many people come up to my booth, and mothers who are crying, thank you for taking a stand. So many like, people that really do need the hugs. They need the love. The people that show up to these things need to feel physical touch after being locked down for 2 years. And so, some of the other actors have like they would have like one of those like barriers so that you go and take a picture and there's a barrier in between. And I was like, screw that. I was like, these people need to be hugged. They've just been locked in their homes and they're traumatized, like we need to get back to that. And so I just when I go to these fan expos, they give me more than I could ever give them. And I am a total fan expo person now because it gives me an excuse to hug and listen to people's stories and love them and let them see my face and just let them know I'm just human too. And I just got done with one in Knoxville, and it was most precious thing with the most precious people, and I love it so much. So that's what I did to make money for, since. And then, and then we got the Daily Wire movie going eventually after about like 6 to 8 months since the announcement. And then we went up in Montana and just knew that's where we wanted to be.
I think where I was kind of going with this was Elon's attorneys.
Oh, so a week before, I had prayed real hard because I was kind of holding on to this idea of justice, right? Oh man, so much justice that hasn't happened in the world, and so much injustice that is so blatant and in everybody's faces. And I just was like, God, I want justice, And then it was like, Gina, maybe your justice is being alive and living in a beautiful country, and moving up to Montana and having a lovely family and having a totally alternate, like, your mind frame's different. And so you might be struggling with money, but, it's okay. You're going to figure it out and let it go. Let it go to God. Give it up. This is his. And if you have to become a waitress, probably a pretty bad one, but I will do it, I'll do whatever life just... You're not a professional fighter or an actress, and I did bartend at one point, though, and I was pretty good at that. Well, my dad would disagree, but I would be better at that now. More experience. So I was just kind of like, okay, well, if I'm not supposed to go back to storytelling and Hollywood, and nobody's hiring me because I got completely shamed, then okay, I'll let it go if I have to. And as soon as I did that, a week later is when Elon Musk's attorneys who he had hired out emailed me and said, we're interested in looking into your case. And I had my family lawyer, Will Lemcole. I was like, are these people legit, or am I being like pranked right now? Because Elon Musk had put up that tweet that said, if you've ever lost your job due to a post here on Twitter, we'd like to look into your case. So it's not just me he's helping. He helped a college student. He's helping a lot of people.
Wow.
Yeah, he's like funding their cases.
Wow.
Oh, if it wasn't for Elon Musk, we'd be in a really scary place.
Yeah.
So he wants justice. I think I've never met him. I've never spoken to him, but I couldn't be more grateful for what he's been doing in my life and what he's been doing. In not just like individual lives, but nations.
The guy, early in the Ukraine war, I remember him moving satellites over because nobody else would.
Right.
So that they could have internet comms.
Here you have, Joe Biden has spent how many billions of dollars on all of this, and Elon Musk gets it done like that. And it's like, you're just wasting and money laundering all of our tax dollars.
Yep.
And Elon Musk is using his own money to save lives. And it just angers you. So I got that email. I responded back and I made sure that the person was legit. Emailed back and they're like, wow. Edward Trent, he's like, that's the fastest anybody's gotten back to us. And I was like, well, I had to get myself out of LA. I had to use the funds that I had to get myself into a better living situation so my life wasn't in danger. And then, I had to rebuild my life, which takes money, and I wouldn't be able to take, Disney.
Yeah. Yeah.
My family lawyer told me, he's like, this is going to at least be initially $500,000, Gina. And what do you want to do? And I was like, I don't have that, So I was like, okay, so rebuild your life it is. And hopefully I get back on the horse, and this all gets revealed. So the week after I gave that all over to God and I said, it's yours, a week after that is when they emailed me. And it's just been kind of like the pressure from that moment. My body's getting healthier. I was carrying a lot of shame. I was, food is also, a thing that food I think is one of people's largest addictions. Alcohol, and just kind of like shame on top of shame. And now my body's breathing again. And it's a slower process because the older you get, the harder it gets. But like I'm coming back into myself again, and I've got my dream of like where I want my business to go, and this court case is going to run its course, and I think people see it for what it is.
What is the best case scenario of the court when it's over, when it's done in your favor? Yeah.
It just depends. I got asked this question at the Fan Expo the other day, and at what point, so if she refuses the dismissal of Disney, right, then we get to go into discovery and what we find in discovery. So at what point does this corruption get revealed? Is my question. And at the same time, I want so badly to get back to my life. I don't want to spend years in court at the same time. So I have this battle in me, and I know that the right answer will come, and I don't have that right answer at the moment. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely, I think, proven that I'm not afraid to fight and take things through to whatever end. But I want this country to heal. I want to move on, and I want to make art. And I'm sure people are pretty tired of me talking anyways. And so I'm sure a lot of people would like to see me get back on film and kick butt again. And that would be my victory, is to have a movie come out where people just absolutely love, see me back in my element. And that would be my personal victory, is succeeding and moving past one of the worst cancellations in Hollywood history. So however that happens.
Have you ever thought about making that your first film?
My grandmother told me. She said, well, they tried to shave half my head for The Mandalorian, and my grandma was like, baby, don't you do that. She's like, then you're going to have to do that all the time, and that is going to go out of style. And she said, so that's my first piece. And she's classic. She's, classic Southern Belle. And she said, second, don't write your biography too soon. If you're going to write it, don't tell your story too soon. If you're going to do that, wait until you've gotten past, and I'm not past the struggle yet. Mm-hmm. I'm suing Disney. I'm in court. I haven't made that movie yet. I haven't gotten past to that finish line where I can start my other marathon. So I will tell you this. I am going to keep it very interesting.
It'd be a fascinating film.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It would be.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I hope you do that.
Tell my story?
Yeah. In movie form.
Yeah, but I'll be directing it, and I'll be like, I don't know, like 55 by then. Like, give me 15 years. I've got a lot of things I need to accomplish before that one. I have a lot I want to do.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of ideas. I'm very creative, and it's just starting to happen now.
Is there... I've heard rumors that the longer this lawsuit drags out and the more involved Elon gets, the lower the Disney stock tanks.
Oh, yeah.
And that he may be thinking he might buy Disney. Do you think there's any validity to that?
I have no idea. I think there's a lot of rumors, but I think it would be pretty cool if he did.
I'm with you.
Yeah,
I hope that's what's happening.
I think one of the things where people are struggling with is fighting the cultural war, right? Which is why I choose to go to the conventions where I'm not necessarily welcomed by, more liberal cities who have made judgment calls on me that they don't know why because they've read some skewed article.
Yeah.
But I choose to show up because then I get invited to go to public speaking events at Republican places, and I don't want to go to those. I want to stay in the art space because that's where people shy away from, and that's where we need to be. Somebody needs to be fighting in the art space, and that's where I want to fight. I want to fight right here in the art space, telling stories and making art in every form that people can enjoy and feel comfortable with. And at the same time, still pushing boundaries, It still might not be for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
I am an action art that will be neck snapped.
How far along in your new journey are you when it comes, it's producing, directing, acting?
So our first plan is the movie, which we're about a month away from having a finished script, and hopefully one more trip to LA, and it's going to be there. And then from there, my manager, who I'm his only client because I needed him, and it was just a perfect fit. And so then he's going to show me how to do the rest of it because this is what he does. So I know the right people will come. I know through the last 3-4 years, so many people want to be a part of my projects. They're just waiting for me. They're waiting for something for me to give them, something for me to give them to buy, something for me to have them watch. They're rooting for me in such a heavy way that I'm going to give that, and it's going to be amazing. And I don't say that very often, but I say that with confidence. So it's going to be cool.
What are you going to call this enterprise?
It's actually called Raven C.
Raven C?
That's my business name. Raven was the name I would have called the baby that I lost. So.
Wow. That's deep.
Yeah. It's also, interestingly enough, it's also, like the bird that on the ark, on Noah's Ark, he let go of a raven and it never came back. So the dove came back, but the raven didn't. So I don't know. Raven C is my business name.
That is very cool. Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love that.
Thank you.
Man, is it sounds like you're very well versed in the Bible, and
I'm trying. I learn something every day.
How much of what do you think of what we're seeing going on in this country, and actually not even in this country, the entire world seems to be in disarray. Do you think this is biblical?
Well, absolutely. I think it's I think there's two different ways, in my in my mind, but God's got a much bigger plan for all of this, and we don't even know, we can't even possibly imagine. But through his word, he's given us kind of an outline, and a lot of prophecies have been fulfilled, right? I think almost all of them. So there's a part of me that prays that my nieces get to grow up and don't have to face this in a young age, this kind of one world government, this globalist, this mark of the beast of totally eliminating, cash, so that the only thing that you can, the only way you can pay is by putting something on your right hand or your forehead. And once you do that, it's just game over, right? So I don't want my nieces to grow up in that, which is why I'm okay with speaking about it all. I'd like there to be another 25 years or plus of a great awakening, of this great awakening of just people understanding that this is a beautiful life to fight for, to understand that there's been wrongs that has been happening historically, and that we can help to correct and come together as a people. But just by what they tried to do with Trump the other day, it seems like they can't lose. Because if they do lose, they are all done for a while until they die. Pass away from old age or whatever, or get imprisoned even. I mean, people belong in prison.
Yeah.
So with the mentality of this group that cannot lose without being exposed, I don't see how they let Trump get back in there. And then you have to really just pray that Trump, Trump holds on to, power and power checks himself, because anybody in that situation. And I think he seems like he's in a pretty good place right now.
Yeah.
I'd say he's never looked more mature as a politician. I say he's outshining the entire Democrat Party. Like, I think they're getting exposed left and right. And it'd be wonderful to have him back in office to kind of set things straight. But it's not going to be pretty, because they can't lose.
Yeah.
If they lose, people are going to prison.
The more desperate they become, the more drastic the attempts are. And
like, what are your thoughts? The assassination attempt just doesn't seem... That was a young kid. How did he get so close?
I mean, what are my thoughts?
Like, how did a kid get a ladder?
I think that I don't have any more insight than anybody else. But the insight that I do have is I have worked with Secret Service several times. I've been on sniper overwatches. I've been on I don't know how many damn protective type details when it comes to foreign dignitaries and people up to the level of the president. And without any of the other context, like the context of, hey, remember without any of the other context, I don't know. I think that is impossible to have been dropped.
Yeah.
I've seen how Secret Service works.
Yeah.
It's to the top level. And that was an easy venue, a very simplistic venue. Shit just doesn't get dropped.
No.
It doesn't get dropped.
Especially when you have people in the crowd screaming and pointing.
Yeah.
There's a man on the roof. There's a man on the roof. And he was a boy.
Things don't get dropped like that.
So, I don't know.
You didn't even see all the plainclothes Secret Service guys that nobody's talking about.
Right,
I mean, they are
everywhere.
Infiltrated in every aspect of these venues. And so I don't see how it wasn't an inside job.
Exactly.
Then you look at the context, of what the trail of what's... I mean, they were throwing a shit fit before he ever even got elected.
Right.
I remember seeing grown men, like, smash eggs in women's faces who were going to vote for him.
Right.
It was all over the media. Then you look at the violence that was created once he got in there with BLM, with Antifa, with all those, all of those, they burnt city blocks to the ground.
Right. Yeah.
Then you had the big tech gurus, Zuckerberg and Bezos, completely shut him off from communicating to the American public while he was still in office.
By the
totally
way,
cut off
Zuckerberg, okay? He wants to sit there and play nice with a bunch of fighters and, I do jiu-jitsu now and look at 4th of July and his, I'm like...
They're welcoming him.
And
that kind of goes to what you were talking about earlier.
Had such an influence on the 2020 election, and I come out and apologize.
Yeah,
come out and say, hey, I was totally wrong, but don't try to buddy up to a bunch of UFC fighters and hide behind the American flag on your yacht and like ride in the wave. Like, yeah. I hate that. Like, man up to what we wouldn't be in the situation had you not censored. Lives were lost.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even these wars wouldn't be happening.
They silenced him. And then you go farther and they prosecuted him, and that didn't work. And so what's the next progression? Let's kill him. I didn't think it would be that obvious. I thought there would be attempts. I didn't think it would go like that.
Yes, that's...
And, I
don't even think it was that kid. Thought it was somebody maybe further on out. Maybe.
I can't, and then I can't even open Twitter or any of this shit right now or not Twitter, X, Instagram, insert social media platform, and it's, well, the guy was a Republican. Okay, because we've not seen any falsified fucking documents before this, right?
Right. Well, no, and he doesn't have...
Even if he was, like, in my experience in war, that's... what these terrorist organizations did was they got really good at coaxing mentally handicapped people into becoming suicide bombers, suicide missions, and what
are we dealing with right now? A high level of mentally handicapped people who are being, turned into extremists. And they don't even know why they're so angry. And sometimes I see these broken people in my lines at these expos, and I go out of my way to just hug them and sign things for them because I can see how close that could possibly turn the opposite direction, which is, is why I show up to these things, because I've had death threats, I've had stalkers, I've all of that, but it's important to stay out there. And it was really admirable. Iconic what Trump did and stood up with his hand and blood. And also just the next day or the other day when he was out there giving a speech, you could just see so much emotion. Just like, I could possibly lose my life. It just became that much more real. It looked like on his face, like I could possibly be assassinated. These people aren't going to stop until they do. And they're showing me that.
Yeah.
And it's just so gross and evil. It's just so evil.
Well, if there were any doubts about his cognitive and physical ability, for being, what is he, 82?
Oh, I thought he was 80.
Is he 80?
Yeah.
In the realm.
We got one, what I think...
To get
Biden
shot.
Biden is 82, isn't he?
Biden's 80. Is Trump 79?
I know. Let's just
whatever.
say
They're in the same
79.
ballpark, age-wise.
I truly wish. I have a strange thing. If it was my cabinet, I truly wish that Robert. I really do like Robert Kennedy a lot. I wish that he would have been vice president, and I would have put Vivek as secretary of state, so he could just like nail the entire press every single day. I would tune in every single day to watch Vivek hand the media their ass, Yeah. And I also kind of feel bad for the media too, because it seems like they've been a bit silenced and are finally like just take the chain off our throats, but the chain they shouldn't have allowed the chain to be on their throats to begin with.
Every single one of those newscasters had a decision that they had to make.
Yeah, and it was
I
wrong.
hope those news agencies get stuffed in a hole
Yeah.
and never come back out.
Yeah.
Because they're all
They were
just
complicit.
talking heads.
They were complicit.
And they fucking know it.
Yeah.
And I see them all out there calling for you. My lip's going to start twitching. I'm so fucking pissed off right now.
I know. All of a
we
sudden...
need unity. We don't promote political violence. Like, I'm sorry. What the fuck was Black Lives Matter and Antifa?
Wait,
did you guys miss that show?
Yeah. Or what was calling... Okay, so they're basically saying for the last, 8 years, right? Trump's Hitler, Trump's Hitler, Trump's Hitler. If you really believed that Trump's Hitler... Now you're like, we don't want anything to happen to Trump.
Well, I mean, this shooter was 20, right?
Yeah.
And they've been doing this for 8 years on Trump.
Yeah.
So,
just constant.
I was talking to because I had to call my attorney for a sanity check. He's always got a great perspective. Yeah. So I called him the day of.
They are great for that.
And I'm like, Tim, I need a sanity check. Yeah. How was this not an inside job? And we had a long discussion, and one of the things that came out is what you're saying. They called him Hitler for 8 years. This is the biggest threat to democracy. And so rewind 8 years ago, this shooter was 12 years old, taking all of that in. Yeah. His entire young adult life through puberty. Yeah. All he's heard is this shit. And now they want to act fucking surprised when the people that they've brainwashed are trying to kill presidential candidates, kill the opposition. Wow. Or maybe that's what they wanted this entire time.
Wow. 12 years old to 20 years old. And that's,
That's all you're fed every fucking day. They created this. Now they're scared shitless. They've been exposed. They've been exposed. Everybody knows.
And how crazy.
Where that came from.
Not even crazy. How wonderful. It was so obvious, and my belief system, that had Trump had not just turned his head slightly, that would have gone straight through, right? To the back. And had he not just done this at the right second, that would have gone a whole different way, which means that they were trying to kill him, right? Because he moved his head just right at the right moment. And there is a God.
Yeah. That was definitely
and I think that was very, very obvious to Trump as well. And I think his whole demeanor has kind of changed. And I think that he realized his life was spared for a reason. And I remember before the election in 2020, we would have days of prayers, long days of prayer all over the nation. And I think we should probably get back to that, because I think that our prayers are being answered now, but that we need to continue praying because, God might not answer it right when you want it, but he does follow through. And so, yeah, hopefully we can get this country back and get our lives back and see our nieces and your children and everybody grow up in some pride of being an American, understanding that we can, learn from history and understand what's to come, and just really kind of take some respect in ourselves as human beings. And hopefully we can get there. Because if not, I'll be in Montana.
If that was divine intervention, I think it's inevitable.
Yeah.
That's where we're headed.
Yeah.
And, man, what a breath of fresh air that would be, right? So. Yeah. But, well, Gina, I just want to say I loved having this conversation with you and just getting to know you. And I can't wait to see what you produce.
Thank you.
In the future. I know it will be amazing. And, man, and once again, I mean, thank you. Thank you for being who you are. And there just isn't anybody in your position that's doing this.
Thank you. Thank you. I think my mom and my dad, they did a pretty good job. My mom, she's a little angel eyes. So, and thank you, because I've been watching everything that you've been doing, and I'm so proud to just be like, this man seems so cool. Of course I want to go talk to him.
Well, that means a hell of a lot.
I'm sorry it took me so long to get here.
Hey, all in good time.
Yeah.
So, best of luck.
Thank you.
History, economics, the great works of literature, the meaning of the U.S. Constitution. Did you study these things in school? Probably not. Or even if you did, maybe it's time for a refresher. Time and technology have changed a lot, and that's why it's important to learn the fundamentals. That's why I'm excited that Hillsdale College is offering more than 40 free online courses in the most important and enduring subjects. You can learn about the works of C.S. Lewis, the stories of the Book of Genesis, the meaning of the U.S. Constitution, the rise and fall of the Roman Republic, or the history of the ancient Christian church with Hillsdale College's online courses, all available for free. That's right, free. I personally recommend you sign up for Ancient Christianity. In this 11-lecture course, you'll study the inspiring stories of Christ in the first 4 centuries of Christianity. The course is self-paced, so you can start whenever and wherever. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/SRS to enroll. There's no cost, and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/SRS to register. No matter where you're watching Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.